Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 237. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V.
Still in the basement. It's where I felt like I've been for the past week. Lots and lots of time down here. Except you're not nearly as cute as Gary to the O. Let's be real.
I am perfectly okay with that, and trust me, I would rather not be here. Even my 40-degree temperatures in Vegas, climbing into the 50s and then 60s and 70s, all in Arizona, were far nicer than sitting here with you. So
it is
feeling
like,
is mutual.
It is like negative 10 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, so we are here. It is, what is it, Tuesday, March 5th, 2019, and as crazy as it sounds, we are actually post our national tour opener, that obviously in Vegas last week, and now our opener from the Disc Golf Pro Tour is behind us. So two really large events, wintertime, of course, a big event, Thailand, a big event, other events, I get it, but two big-time events now officially behind us.
Those are okay events. Like, they're great events, but as far as what people consider, like, the tour, they're not part of the tour. They're great warm-up events. They're phenomenal courses in fantabulous areas, but we're into the meat now. We are ready to start talking disc golf. I just wish we had stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Well, here we are. We're going to have Dana Vici join us tonight. We'll see what he's got to say as he took in both of those events from afar. So we'll see, check out the Dynamite angle. And then shortly after we let Dana go, we are then going to have, spoiler alert, our champion from the Memorial this last weekend. We're going to have Eagle McMahon join us. Eagle had jetted out of Arizona on Sunday, heading back home. He said he was excited to get back there and be able to sleep in his own bed and a little probably rest and relaxation. We'll get into a little more of that with him, but he should be back in Colorado and ready to go. So he's going to be joining us tonight, and then we'll go from there. I've reached out to a few other people. We'll see if we have any additional guests, but Eagle will be I'll call him our headliner. Yeah, we'll call him that.
Yeah, as he should be. He just won a Pro Tour event. I would say headliner is a great way to go.
I mean, we might have a course designer. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're going to have Eagle. So, without further ado, here's Dynamite.
Boom goes the Dynamite.
Yeah, booyah. Hey, Dynamite.
That's right. What's up, boys?
How we doing?
Shout out to Disc Baron. Thank you for the super chat.
I'd rather just give shout-outs all night because that means rather than hearing from Dana. Like,
no.
Oh, hold Dana. Super chat. Oh, Dana. Super chat. No, but seriously, thank you, Disc Baron, for the super chats that come in. Much appreciated. Dynamite, as I said, you have been from afar in the another frozen tundra that is Illinois. And what do you got for us, buddy?
Yeah, it is cold, and man, Disc Baron, it seems like he's always in on the super chats. He's the man.
He is. We very much appreciate it. He has also reached out. He said he would like to support some of my video blog coverage for some post-production action as well. So greatly appreciated. Please go check out Disc Baron. You can find him online. Very, very supportive. I know they've supported events. They support players. They're supporting our podcasts and post-production. So we say it a million times over. Support those who support us. And Disc Baron is certainly right there. All right, Dana.
Absolutely. Yeah, so couple weeks of disc golf tour, and it feels good. Even from afar in the tundra, it feels good to have the disc golf season back. Of course, last weekend was Vegas. That was very exciting. This week was the launch of the Disc Golf Pro Tour at the Memorial out in beautiful, sunny Arizona. And it actually looked like it was beautiful and sunny. Was it actually, can you confirm that, Terry? Was it a Pro Tour event and beautiful and sunny?
I'm going to go on record, and I was definitely thinking this throughout the week, even as we were wrapping up on Sunday. I cannot think. I think I've been to the Memorial every year except for one since 2005, and I cannot think of 3 or 4 straight days of such calm and beautiful weather. Sun is always abound. Warm temps are usually there. The fact that it was virtually windless for 4 straight days, and a little bit I know picked up finally Sunday afternoon, barely. It was virtually windless for 4 consecutive days. I don't think I've ever seen it as calm as that ever in all the years I've been out there. So clearly great for scoring, and I think some of these guys would have scored just as well regardless of the wind. They were so on point, but I can absolutely attest to it. Calmer than ever out there in Arizona.
Nice. Did you have your? Did you get sunburned?
I did, and people so politely warn me and remind me every day, and then I'm always like, darn it, I don't have sunscreen, and then somebody has it. I'm like, darn it, I don't want to put it on. And then next thing you know, finally, I think on the last day, I actually felt a little on the ears. So I appreciate people looking out for me. I'm not even going to talk about somebody holding me down and spraying me, but that's practically what needs to be done. I need to take better care of that in the future. I guess there could be bigger problems that I have than having a little extra color right now.
I hear you. Well, let's dive right into the Memorial. Man, it was a lot to take in. It was a lot to take in. This was the first, as we said, the first Disc Golf Pro Tour event. So I think people were probably more interested in seeing the media side versus the actual disc golf side. But the disc golf side, the FPO. I know we're gonna have Eagle later, so maybe we'll let him talk a little bit more about the MPO side. But the FPO side, that was exciting stuff. Huge field. Johnny, how many total FPO players were we looking at?
32 FPO players.
32. We are seeing a lot of FPO players on the pre-reg list this year and these last couple weekends. Very good to see. Yeah, there was after round 1, it was a pretty tight race there. We had a lot of players at even par out at the Fountain, which was a 56. We actually had 6 players: Evelina Salonen, Jessica Wiese, Jennifer Allen, Missy Gannon, Zoe Andike, and Maria Oliva. They were all at even par and tied for first place. Unfortunately, for some of them, round 2 didn't go as good. Someone did catch some fire round 2, and that would have been Paige Pierce. She was one off the lead with a 57 round 2, and then she kind of rounded back into form round 2 with a 52, which was 1,000 rated. And it's kind of what we've been waiting to see out of Paige. She didn't have the bet. We'll just say it. She was rusty in Vegas. Didn't have that Paige A game, but after a couple rounds here at the Memorial, it sure seemed like she had found that stroke.
Yeah. I mean, she's that 1,000 rated round was fun. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it kind of felt like we were going to get that Paige from last year, the way she started last year, and I was really excited. I was like, all right, this is awesome. She is going to start, she's going to show us some great disc golf and this and that. And then that 3rd round came and she still did okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that third round being at Vista was a 62, which was 945 rated, but it allowed a couple other players to catch up to her. 2 of them being Evelina Salonen and Jessica Wiese. jumping into the mix. And yeah, so going into the final round, Paige was down. What was she down to Evelina?
That's a good question. She was down.
I think it was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
3 or 4, but sorry, I was looking for some clarification on that. But
No, that's
final
fine.
round, it was a battle between her and Evelina for first place, and then Jessica nipping at Paige's heels. And Paige, ultimately threw a pretty good round, a 987 rated round, which was a 55, considerably better than her round 3. But Evelina, she went 52, which was 10-15 rated, and just an absolute phenomenal round. What she did was scored a ton of birdies. She only carded 1 bogey. This is Evelina we're talking about, final round at the Memorial, and that was on hole 2. After that, it was on. She was basically on an every other hole pace of getting birdies. And Paige was able to match there in the middle, but then ultimately down the stretch, if we jumped to hole 13, Paige took a bogey while Evelina parred, and then Evelina went birdied 3 of the next 4 while Paige threw pars, and that was ultimately the difference there. Paige was able to birdie the very difficult hole 18 while Evelina took the 3 and took the victory home for herself, and a big win for Europe, a big win for Finland. This is the first Finnish player to win a major, quote unquote, major U.S. event, not actually a major. So pretty awesome stuff for the young Evelina. I think she's 20 years old.
19.
19.
And I only say that, and I will publicly say it here. I had misspoke a number of times. I think both in maybe some of the commentary I did, or maybe even here on the show, or in other few live snippets I did. I was constantly referring to her thinking that she was 16, and somebody else had said otherwise. So finally I reached out to her throughout this weekend, and I clarified with her, and I openly said, hey, I believe I've been saying you're 16. Is it otherwise? And she said, yes, I'm 19. And of course I apologized to her. She was all good with it. But yes, so she has told me herself she is 19 years old.
The big 1-9, taking down a big event. So congratulations to her. As I said, Paige did finish in second place. Let's say the rust is completely knocked off for Paige. We'll see what she can do in her home state of Waco here in a couple weeks. Finishing in third place, Jessica Wiese had a strong showing. She was the only other FPO player under par, and that was at 3 under. And in a tie for fourth was Katrina Allen and Rebecca Cox. And man, we're seeing, just like on the men's side, we are seeing a lot of competition on the FPO side, and that's from up top for first, second, third, all the way down to those last caching, and then actually the cut line. We're seeing some good players on both sides of the cut, and man, that's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks in a row on both the MPO and FPO side. We've seen some big household names on the outside looking in. So it's a very, very competitive FPO field, and man, what a great time to be a disc golf fan right now. Watching these competitions and these players, they might win one weekend and be down towards the bottom of the cash line the next weekend. It's or not even making it. So pretty exciting stuff, and it makes it fun to follow along.
Dana, and this isn't to single her out, but to just re-emphasize exactly what you said on the FPO side, a household name and a perennial, podium finisher, one we've really gotten to see and experience and watch her really elevate her game lately, is big hug to Lisa Fakis, who's, I think, found herself on the unfavorable side of that cut line now back-to-back weekends, which I think anyone that knows anything, even remotely follows FPO golf would bet against that. If you would have said 3 weeks ago, hey, I think Lisa Fakis is back-to-back weeks not going to make the cut or make the payout line, I bet you most people would take that bet. I know I would have in a heartbeat. I would have easily thrown down $100 on that and not expected that. So, you mentioned a moment ago, Paige Pierce and her rust, and that's possible. Lisa Fakis, I'm not sure what her offseason looked like. It could be tough conditions. She could be battling injury. There's obviously some unknowns there. Or just flat out not having the weekends that she's certainly capable of having. But when I think about, the competitiveness that you just spoke of, when I think about the household names, Lisa Fakis definitely right there as one of those people. So, shout out to her and big hug and hoping that we're going to see, her playing the golf that we know she's capable of playing, because so many of us know how fun and electrifying she can be when her putt is on. I mean, she's easily one of the favorite FPO players to watch from just about any distance. So we'll see if Lisa Fakis, when she gets to Texas as well, maybe some little more home state comfort creeps in for her.
Yeah. I think was she live round one at the Memorial?
Lisa Fakis?
She must have been, because wasn't there a challenge with some of the post-production branding?
I don't remember much of that first FPO round, to tell you the truth.
Oh, you were asking because no one knew. Is that what you're saying, Dana? Because no one could tell. Okay, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, that was a...
I'm not sure if anyone knew.
That was... All right, let's go ahead and let's dive in. Let's dive into it, Johnny. What was going on? You were at the
Panic?
control. That round one, it was. I feel really bad because I'm usually not like this, but it started out so bad. I made a Facebook post about it, and I usually don't.
Dumpster fire inside of a dumpster fire, like someone threw a dumpster on fire into a bigger dumpster, and that's what happened. So my understanding is, and this could all be coincidence. My computer here warns me, as we saw earlier, it flashes yellow when things are going nuts. And it started flashing, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Huh. And then it went red again. I was like, okay, cool. We're fine. Well, what I didn't know is, because I wasn't watching the chat, I wasn't watching anything, was that at hole 4, it like locked up. And I was like, well, whatever. And then Todd Dodge messages me on the phone. He's like, hey, someone said that the stream is locked at hole 4. I log in. I open up the stream. I hit play. It plays just fine. What I didn't take a closer look at was the fact that I was playing, when I tested it, from like holes 1 and 2. So I hit play and it wasn't live. So I'm like, yeah, holes 1 and 2. I'm watching it. It's fine, Todd. I close. I ignore him. Like 20 minutes later, he's like, no, seriously, dude, someone says they can't get on, and it's like stuck at hole 4. And I'm like, ugh, whatever. And I look, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not good.
Fine.
And so I start like clicking to try to go into YouTube, and it won't let me. Every time I go to log in, it like boots me out. So the stream is stuck. I can't restart the stream. I'm panicking, thinking it's on me. And I'm just like, this is it. I have no clue what's going on. This sucks. I'm getting messages from people that are they're messages from people about how I am how way to go, Johnny. This is what you should be doing to the Pro Tour. Way to go. Like I'm purposefully submarining the Pro Tour, which I clearly wasn't. So finally, about hole 14, I'm able to log into the system. I'm able to shut it down, and I'm able to pull the stream back up. I do a search on Twitter, and there's all these issues with people logging into YouTube, just the same issue I had. And from that point on, the stream was pretty solid. So I don't know if there was a coincidence that my stream had glitched and locked up, and then I couldn't get back in. And it was the absolute worst way to start out the Pro Tour. Like, period. Day 1, morning.
I mean, Fountain Hills could have blown up.
No, that would at least. Well, that probably would have been blamed on the Pro Tour somehow. But this was just like an awful way to start. And I trust me, I was literally sweating as afterwards I went upstairs and like washed myself off and re-put on deodorant because I was panicking so much to get this back up, because the last thing I want is that to go poorly. So it was a tidal wave of bad luck, and I had no clue what caused it until I looked it up, and it was like, oh, that's probably a YouTube thing. And maybe it was on my side too. Maybe it was a combination of the two, but yeah, that didn't go over well, to put it mildly.
But the next few rounds, even the back nine of FPO, that round one was pretty solid. I mean, from
that's
where it started out, aside from the YouTube issues, and then I guess combining that. But overall, I really I thought the live was pretty good, and it had some. I loved being able to jump seamlessly to the second card. Thought that was pretty awesome. That was a really nice touch, and ultimately, some of the camera guys were a little green, but I think
hands down,
they'll get better. So it was early season. Maybe if they were playing, they would have missed the cut, but Wake was right around the corner.
They might have missed themselves missing the cut.
Yeah, they wouldn't. No one would have seen them miss the cut. Trust me. There are definitely. I will say it right now. I'm sure we'll get into it a little later. There are definitely some issues with the cameramen being very, like I said, very green. There are some issues with them being able to follow the disc, and I saw one or two guys on the crew that didn't. I'll say this: it didn't appear like they were trying their hardest. And thankfully, it wasn't on it wasn't the lead card. Let's put it that way, that I was fortunate enough to work with. But there are inevitably going to be some issues, and I can't speak of the post-production because I have no involvement in it. All I can look at is, the live production, and I set the bar real low on Thursday that it could only get better. So I honestly felt by Sunday it was as good as some of our Smashbox coverage as far as production, not necessarily camera work, but they'll get used to that at some point. But production, I had 2 streamers going. I had a backup streamer going, which I rarely do. I went all out to make sure that things were going to go more smoothly. And I've heard things about the post-production. I've kind of skimmed it and looked at bits and pieces, and they definitely need some work. I think a lot of it can be cleaned up, and I think a lot of it is going to need, there's certain aspects of it that they're going to maybe need to readdress on how they do it.
Yeah.
But I think it does have potential to get much better.
What was really good, I thought, was Nate and Val, which is, to me, doesn't come as a surprise. That Nate's one of the, if you've ever been lucky enough to be at an event where Nate is giving a speech, he's very, very well spoken. And then obviously we caught him last year after his injury. He commentated with what do you call you, T-Bag or T-Dog or T-Diddy,
Teaspoon, Teacup,
T-Spoon, all the above. But Nate,
you name it.
Nate and Val,
T-Bone.
they're T-Bone. They're good people, and I enjoyed their commentary. And that could not have been easy on them. Two rounds a day. So I don't know what that is, 6 to 8 hours. I'm assuming somewhere in that range of talking and filling some space. And I felt like they got better and stronger as the weekend went on. So that was a definite shining.
And I had told them that I was like, listen, you after that first round, one of the big complaints was just how much they talked. And so we had a discussion. We said, listen, I think I've heard Terry say this, that silence should be your third booth partner. Like, there's no reason, we don't need to fill every second. And then they started doing the live listen-ins, which was really nice on some of the holes. And I think there is obviously still room for improvement where they could even speak even less. But it is so difficult. If you look at almost every person the first time they get in that live booth, You talk. You look at what's on the screen and you talk about it, and you don't realize how much you're talking. And I mean, a premier example is Dixon Jowers. The first time we worked with him at GBO, he didn't shut up. Like, I remember Terry and I were like, okay, I don't know if we're going to work with him again because he just isn't quiet. Well, he came on at the Pro Tour last year, and it was black and white, or day and night. Yeah, he was very good. He's well prepared. I mean, he's well spoken, and he knew much better how to control the booth. And it might have been a difference between walking with the group and being in the booth. But I've said it before, I love working with Dixon. I think the only person that out of the gate that was really good is stupid Robert McCall.
Oh, I hate that guy.
I know. And
that hair.
He's good at everything, and it's just not fair. So, but yeah, Nate and Val will get better. They're gonna take everything and their bed sheet and look at it and make sure that they can, for sure, do what they need to better themselves because they're pros and that's what they do.
Absolutely. So when that begs the question, when will we see them on the mic again? Because how I envision it, and I don't know anything, is maybe they're on for the Discraft sponsored events. Maybe other combos are on for maybe a DD sponsored event. Maybe we'll see some DD guys on the mic. Do you know anything about that?
Honestly, I don't. Do you know anything? Because I don't.
Yeah, I talked to them. I had to sign over some papers or something or other since they were stealing my job as well. Yeah. And so I had to talk to them on I caught up with them Thursday night. Just a little check-in to see how things were going after their first day. And they said, I think this is public knowledge, so I'll share some stuff. If not, I just make stuff up. But I think their plan is to be largely involved for most, if not all, of the Pro Tour commentary. And now, of course, who knows if that's going to change or not. There's a lot of consistent things that we see on the media side and some things that aren't. So, but their plan, I believe, is to be involved with it. And it's not just at Discraft specific events, although that would also make a lot of sense. So in a week and a half or so, when we go to Waco, the Pro Tour heads there, I would fully anticipate them to be involved on that commentary side. So, and if that's not the case, then either I was confused or misunderstood. But I believe that to be the case, that they'll be involved there and in other events moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know if they're both gonna do the full 8-hour shifts or if they're gonna try to break it up or. I think there's a lot yet to be determined, but I was unaware about their future. I know they were going to do one or at least a couple more, but I didn't know if it was all of them, if it was just the Discraft ones, or what the deal was.
Yeah, so we shall see. And they reiterated a few points that we've just talked about, and of course, with anything, the more they do it, the more comfortable they became. Learning how much you do or don't need to speak, that becomes a little bit of a learned skill as well. From what I gathered, it sounds like they did really well with that. So looking forward to seeing and hearing more from them as the year goes on. Excuse me. And yeah, and as a lot of people are saying on the board, and as I already know, as someone like Dixon already knows, that is a large time commitment. That's a long time to attempt to be mentally sharp as well. I think just like cameramen that are out there for 2 rounds that can make for very long days. It's one thing to carry a camera around and be ready to go for the shots. It's another thing when you're in a live mode. When you're out there as a cameraman, I'm going to say it's definitely more mentally taxing. So to do that back-to-back rounds, and then on the same note, to do commentary back-to-back rounds like that, even with a little break in between, it's just knowing that every single word you say can be analyzed or replayed or scrutinized in some way, shape, or form. It's just a little bit mentally taxing, and there's very few pairs of people that right out of the gate could probably step in and do as well as they did.
And Nate and Val were, let me just say, behind the scenes, too cutesy, too lovey-dovey.
Oh, gosh,
like,
that's gross.
Whenever like they go off screen for a second and they look at each other and then they give each other like high fives. Let me tell you, they're pretty cutesy.
Is that why you had a separate feed for a Nate and Val kiss cam that was always happening? That's a little creepy.
It's actually still going on. You want me to pull it up? They don't know it's on.
The sheet is down and it's all exposed over at the house. So
no, and they were very good.
So no surprises, and we'll see if like I said, that remains a constant throughout the tour and having them. And then if they're not, I'll just say it now, if they're not, and another group or set of people or pair of people ultimately step into that, there's going to be, again, that learning curve. Almost no matter who it is, they'll have to go through some of those challenges and initial phases as well. And just like you said about the cameramen and a lot of those things, sometimes you're hitting reset. And unfortunately, if that's often, I think that's going to really detract and dissuade people and possibly lose a little interest if you're constantly hitting reset on fresh new people over and over again. I like the idea of fresh people, but if you're spending a day or a half a day or 3 out of 4 days or 2 out of 3 days to get someone up to speed, and you're doing that every single time, I think you're going to be putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. There's something to be said about that consistency and that crew or those people that you become familiar with. So we'll see how that, I think, challenge is addressed moving forward.
Sure. Well, I know it's getting late and it's probably getting close to Eagles' bedtime, even though it's 8:30.
That guy goes to bed early and then he wins, Dana. So if your teammates got any words of advice,
I go to bed early too, man.
Well, then you're not winning. So you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I'm going to interrupt you real quick and just let's get a shout out in there. Did you just again host this Ice Bowl? Did you already talk about your very successful fundraiser? I wanted to get that mentioned in here. Pine Hills, was that a couple weeks ago already, or
that was at the beginning of February? But I just got the receipt for the donation, so I post it up, make sure everyone knows money's going. But
raised to benefit where?
Yeah, the Youth Service Bureau in Ottawa, Illinois. Their homeless department, so it helps kids and teens that are down on their luck, or maybe their family is. And so, we've been raising money for them for the last few years. But I think it was like 180-something pounds of food and hygiene products, and a little over $1,500. So thank you to everybody that came out to the Pine Hills Ice Bowl. Again, you guys are awesome. That's I don't know. I love running events that are for a good cause and playing in them. And of course, the Ice Bowl is always a fun one in the middle of winter. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it. But there was something I did want to touch on before I go. I just want to say, yeah, the Pro Tour has made some decisions and changes, but I believe it's ultimately in the best interest for the Pro Tour and the sport. And I feel like Steve Dodge, who's one of the best people I know, I love Steve. He's been, man, I don't even know how many years I've known him, but Steve he's one of the best people I know, and he loves disc golf. He's done so much for professional disc golf. Like so much for the FPO side, everything, and it kills me seeing all this heat that he's getting and how people are mischaracterizing him when it's things that they might not necessarily understand, and it's not for me to get into on all these different media deals and how he's taking it in house, but cut him some slack. Let's not that Steve isn't thick skin, but let's not run another awesome disc golf promoter out of town. It seems like the disc golf community just, and I guess this is more of a, with social media, how everybody's just so quick to pounce on everything. But man, let's cut them a break. Let's cut the Pro Tour a break. I know that the media wasn't great this last weekend. The live got better, the post-production let's just hope that gets better. But Steve has the best. He wants the best for disc golf. He wants the best for professional disc golf. He's out there doing it. He's not getting rich, and these people that are calling him greedy and everything. Disc golf pro tour needs to be sustainable. Like decisions have to be made, and for the media is in house, and I believe it's going to get better. The live got better. The post production, absolutely, I don't think it can not get better. Just unfortunately, it just wasn't that great. But going back to my original point, Steve Dodge, just please, people, relax. Take a step back. Maybe look in the mirror. Are you perfect? I'm not perfect. But to just absolutely roast him and mischaracterize him like he has been, it's in my opinion is wrong. And Steve Dodge, I don't know if you're listening or where you're at. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know what you're doing. I think, Terry, if you talk to, I don't know if maybe you did talk to a bunch of the professional players over these last couple of weeks. Yeah, maybe they're questioning the media stuff, but at the end of the day, we have a sustainable tour. I think there's 75 or 80 people on tour right now. The Disc Golf Pro Tour has 10,000 plus added cash at every event. It's geographically sensible. Professional disc golfers are actually able to kind of make a living going out there.
That's all because of the Pro Tour.
This is the Pro Tour.
Just so everybody knows, that is 100% due to the Pro Tour. If you go back, and we're going to get Eagle on here any second, I promise, guys. If you go back just 5 years and look at the PDGA Tour, it was trash. Like, the events are great, but the tour itself, the travel, was garbage. Like, you're talking thousands of miles in a week or two each way, back and forth across the country. Thanks to the Pro Tour working in coordination with the PDGA, we have a sustainable tour. So just let that sit a little bit. And I don't wish Steve Dodge to be dead, like I saw a YouTube comment. Someone said, I hope Steve Dodge dies. And I don't hope that. So I like Steve Dodge.
Yeah, I mean, I miss Smashbox and everything, being the live provider and all that, but I understand, and these are moves that I think had to be made. And at the end of the day, please, if you guys do support the Pro Tour, let Steve know, let those people out there that are making these hateful and hurtful messages that you support the Pro Tour, and that they're wrong. This is a tough, man. I'm getting emotional here. But anyways, I think I've got my point across, and rather than mumble anymore. Steve Dodge, thank you so much for what you do for disc golf and what you've done for professional disc golf. I really appreciate it.
Well, good call, Dana. We appreciate it. I know you've been out there. You talk to these pros as much as anyone else out there. You've seen both the inside and the outside of what's happening. You've been on tour. You've been, on the sideline of the tour and everywhere in between. You've been here with us. You've been on your own. So I know you have a good insight, and I think you have a really good, your fingers right on the pulse of Steve Dodge's pulse, and he's not perfect. None of us are perfect. You're exactly right, and there's things that can get cleaned up, and there's certainly challenges that are available to him and the tour and the media and everything in between. However, if anyone thinks that Steve's heart is not in the right place, that's where I would just say you're dead wrong. He may make a bad decision. He may mess up from time to time, certainly, and he'll admit to that. But his heart is always in the right place every single time, and that is why he has had my support and my that's all I can say. That's why he's had my support through everything. I mean, this goes back 5 or 8 or 10 years, and it'll continue to go forward in that direction. because Steve's heart is in the right place. It's just a matter if he's, hitting the nail on the head when he's moving forward with some of his projects and procedures. So, all right, Dana. Well, we appreciate your insight. We appreciate a little bit of the update of what you saw from afar.
Congratulations to Evelina. What a great week.
Yes, and all of the other great competitors out there on the A-tier side of things. Someone like an old school Barry Schultz, who said he hasn't been out there in 8 or 9 years, to see him go out there and then take it down in the Masters division. A lot of great stories out there with a ton of great people all enjoying what we saw out at the Memorial Championships presented by Discraft. So, Dana, we're going to leave it to your teammate, the one that won this weekend, and we'll let you go, buddy.
That's right. Congratulations, Eagle, Terry, Johnny, Smashies. It's always good to see you.
All right, buddy.
Bye,
Have
Dana.
a good night. See ya. There it was. Dana Vici giving us a little insight. And in a moment here, we're going to see if we can get Eagle on the line and get some specific insights from him as we moved from the National Tour event over in Vegas, obviously onto the Disc Golf Pro Tour event.
Stupid.
And I'm interested to hear more about not only the successes from this weekend, but what else we think we're going to see from Eagle as we move into this 2019 season.
Eagle, hold on 1 second. I'm going to give you a call right back.
All right. I guess we're going to.
A stupid thing didn't.
Stupid internet.
Skype. No, it's Skype. It's always Skype. Skype changes your settings when you turn this little thing on.
It sounds like YouTube's problem. We'll blame YouTube again.
It's not this time.
Steve Dodge. I'm blaming Steve. Steve Dodge. Let's blame.
You know what? I want to take a little bit of credit for. There he is. There's our good friend Eagle. I want to take just a hair of credit for the bed sheet.
What?
Whoa, hey.
There I am.
The night before I had a little meeting with Nate and Val, and I saw the bed sheet and I was like, "Hey, what's behind there?" And they're like, "Just a blank beige wall." And I'm like, okay, whatever. They're talking to a mic and I don't want it to echo and this and that. I'm like, well, whatever. Oh boy, did that blow up. Some really great hot memes. What do you think, Eagle?
Oh, I love all of the memes. They're all really funny. And there's one I'm not going to mention, but oh boy, it was heavy and I laughed a lot.
All right.
You can dig around and you can find it.
All right. Well, and welcome to the show, Eagle McMahon, our champion from this weekend. And Eagle, what a whirlwind. I think about the last few weeks, call it a mini tour, call it the tour openers, all of those things. But you leave Colorado, you venture out, you and your dad. Give us an overview of the week or two that led even into the Memorial. Before we get to that, where were you at leading into the Memorial?
Great question. So we started our travel on February 10th, I believe. We left Boulder, Colorado, which is the place I spent the off season for the 3 months prior. And we traveled down to Pasadena, California for the Wintertime Open. We stayed with a disc golf legend, Dan Stork-Roddick,
Wow.
PDGA number 3, which is always a really cool experience. He is super knowledgeable. He's over 70, but he's still sharp as a tack. He has stories from disc golf, freestyle, pretty much everything Frisbee. So it's incredible getting to spend time with him. Afterwards, we had the kickoff of the national tour in Vegas, and then wrapping around to the Memorial, the first Disc Golf Pro Tour of the year. So it's been a great 3 weeks, and I'm happy to be home now.
I bet. Well, of course, we last week when I was still in Vegas, we caught up with Kelvin, who had a very impressive win. But you were right there, nipping on his heels, trying to close that out, having a really solid finish. He was checking the scores, and you were applying the pressure as best as you could. What were you thinking as that final round was wrapping up over in Vegas?
Oh man, that was quite something. Pretty much going into the final round, I think Calvin had me by like 8 strokes at the time. And at that point, I was just looking back on previous rounds and I figured, okay, I I did not perform as well as I needed to in the second round. I believe that I only shot a 3 down and Calvin shot an 8 down that round. So there's a huge deficit just right there. I was able to start getting hot in the third round, and then the fourth round was basically it was me against the course. I was just trying to fight for a good position potentially, but one thing led to another, or better, let me put it a better way, one birdie led to another, and before not, I was on fire, and I heard a little bit about Calvin's start. He didn't have the best, I'd say, front nine. I think he was even over par, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was saying, just keep playing well. And you never know. Anyone could win this tournament. I'm like, oh, dang. So I played one hole at a time. And then I just pretty much knew that I can't miss a birdie if I want any sort of chance of winning. And I came into the clubhouse, I looked at UDisc, and at the time we were tied, which I was like, oh my gosh, but he had 2 holes to play and he birdied out, which is amazing because I watched his round on Jomez, and I can't believe he turned it around. He was struggling so bad, and then on the back nine he went 8 for 9, which that is someone who wants to win an NT right there. So I applaud him on his ability to turn it on at the right time. But of course, I would have liked to defend my title.
Would you define that, at least that back nine, as clutch on his behalf? Is that a term you would use?
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, because it's so crazy. It happens almost every single time. Like, I know Calvin's 1039, and he's been around the disc golf scene for a while, but he's never been in a position to win that first, let's say, National Tour, Disc Golf Pro Tour, or major. And if you're in the lead, you're going to have some jitters on the first couple holes or first 9 holes or however long, maybe the whole round. It's never a comfortable feeling. And you always see just everyone's like, you're going to collapse. Everyone's expecting it from you. But the fact that him being the first time in that position to pull it out, I think is really great. And I bet you we're going to see a lot of great things from him later this year.
Yeah, he's clearly proven that he's got the skills. He's got a great, head on his shoulders. He's a smart individual. He's obviously disc golf smart on top of it. He's got this great background, in this Florida upbringing of playing good competitive golf down there. We saw him open up Worlds last year, I believe, with the hot round during the very first round.
Extremely level-headed.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things I think everybody seems to know about him particularly, is just how calm he always seems to come across.
So, enough about last week's winner.
Let's talk about this week's
winner.
winner.
So this week, you come in, and right out of the gates, I mean, clearly you're carrying basically that birdie train, just left Vegas and pulled right into Fountain Hills. And you and Simon back and forth, birdie, birdie, birdie. I mean, you're clearly birdieing way more often than you're not. I mean, birdies clearly never become boring or get old, I'm sure. How do you go from the course out at Vegas, or course is a little bit longer, well, a few more trees and a few more bunkers, then you have to switch to that, all but, deuce or die mentality out at Fountain. Do you think about the styles of courses and what you're going to do to change up your plan?
I think in general, the style for the 2 tournaments are fairly similar. I'm throwing a lot of the same discs, just pretty much overstable, high hyzers. There's not a lot of trees in the way. So I think it translates really well. Plus, I've played the Memorial for 4 years now, so those courses don't really change, so it's really easy to practice. I want to shout out the Spinners or the Disc Golf Pro Tour to finally hearing our prayers and giving us an extra practice day between Vegas and the Star Memorial, because that makes a world of difference. Because I remember last year you drove after Vegas to Scottsdale, and then you're like stressing to get practice rounds in. This year, we took our time getting to Arizona. I was able to get a good recovery day. I did a sensory deprivation tank, which I think really helped, and then just leisurely practiced both courses. So that was really nice. But
had you ever done a sensory deprivation before, or was that the first time?
It was the first time. Seth from Disc Golf Strong is the one who recommended it. He says right after Vegas, going into Memorial, it was a really great it would be a really good opportunity to for recovery, but also to just calm down your nervous system from so much focus and stress from the weekend prior.
So let me follow that up and say the other pro disc golfer that I've heard really talk about those, I believe, is Will Schuester. So did you ever see or hear of him talk about those and what those did for him, or no?
I have not.
Okay.
I know Will's in the kind of a lot of the same things I'm into, health and recovery and all that kind of stuff. But I know Ricky's done them. Okay. But basically, I was purely going off of I guess my new coach, Seth Muncie's suggestion. And
okay.
The cool thing is I take my heart rate every morning, and the day before, my resting heart rate is 58 beats per minute, which for me is pretty high. And then the next day after the sensory deprivation tank, I was able to lower it to 44. I felt so energized the next day, like I was brand new. And fun fact, I just did one this afternoon, and it was great.
You're hooked.
No, that's
how many? All right. We got to put a cap on these. I limited myself to like 5 foot massages per week in Thailand. We got to put a cap on your sensory deprivation. How many of these do you see yourself going to, we'll say, a week?
I think it's more for recovery post-tournament.
Okay.
So especially, let's say I get on the road and we have just back-to-back events. I think it'll be a really good thing to kind of cool down with, get your mind right, and just recover. So probably maybe after every event. And the good news about them is that they're a tax write-off. So
yeah, there you go.
Okay. So good. So we've got an official plug-in. When you hook up with a national chain or brand, let us know so we can make sure that everyone is frequenting someone that's supporting golf or is involved with golf. Mm-hmm. So you're refreshed. You're ready to go. You play Fountain, and then you guys have 2 great starts in the first couple of days.
I was gonna say, did your approach to the tournament change because you started out at Fountain twice, or is it for you, does it not make any difference?
Initially, I thought the change was a little strange, just to have. I've never really played a tournament where we played 2 courses and the format was to play both courses back to back. So initially, I don't really know like my game plan as far as like as it mentally goes. Just being on the course each day, it doesn't really change anything. But in the future, I think I would like to see it alternate, just because I think it's I don't know, it's a different challenge every day. I think playing Fountain twice kind of enabled us to get pretty familiar with the shots and maybe dial in a lot of the holes, because both days were virtually perfect scoring conditions. So it almost felt like Groundhog Day out there.
Well, you had 15 birdies during the opening round, and then you came back the second day, and then you had 14 birdies, but 13 under par. So clearly a hot start for both you and Simon. How much of that vibe, being friends, being teammates, being fierce competitors, how much do you feel like you were feeding off that vibe of the two of you kind of stroke for stroke back and forth?
I'd say a pretty significant amount, because we're both on the feature card to start. And Simon, I was the one who started out hot. I birdied 8 out of the first 9, and Simon was only 1 behind me. Then he birdies hole 9, I miss it. Hole 10, I throw a sidearm and hit a palm tree, and that's where he takes the lead. And then he kind of sets the pace moving forward and beats me by 1 on the round. And then I kind of played catch up to him the whole next day. And him being a friend, him being a teammate, but also him being a rival of sorts, it was all the reason to just do my best to stick with him and play my best, really.
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little tidbit. On Saturday night, I had to get away for a moment. I think you had already called it a night, you and your dad. I was stayed at the same place. We both
No
had the
surprise.
amazing Boyd as our host. And I went over to Duke's, and I ran into a couple of the golfers, very few. It was getting a little late. Shout out to Yuli's mom, Pat, who graciously treated me to dinner. And I saw Simon there. He was at the bar, and I said, how is this going to shake out? What do we have? You and Eagle, you guys are neck and neck. And I said, how do you beat him, or how does he beat you, or whatever? I kind of was just trying to pick his brain a little, and he said, I feel like the only way I don't beat him or the only way I can beat him at this point is if he gets unlucky. He said that's his only weakness, is sometimes he gets unlucky. And I share that with you now after you've won. I feel like that's one of the highest, most sincere, compliments he could give you, in that he feels like your only downside is that occasionally either you or him or both of you feel like sometimes you may get a bad break from time to time. I think he had mentioned he got a bunch of great breaks, at least in the first few rounds. And so I really took away from that thinking, wow, he thinks that, his best chance, and he wasn't wishing for it, but his only best chance to beat you is if somehow you became unfortunate, because he said he putts well, he drives well, he's on point. So certainly the highest respect and regard for you when I talked to him the night before it closed out.
Well, that's really that I'm honored to hear that from you. But yeah, I'm really happy he said that, but I think he needs to give himself a little bit more credit. Because can we jump ahead to the last round?
Please do.
Let's talk about the last round.
So the last round, it was a little bit of a bumpy start. I was throwing out of bounds. Simon was throwing out of bounds. And we were just kind of going back and forth. And I could tell that we were both a little bit shaky, but I had some better opportunities than he did. So I took advantage of those, and I was able to get a lead on the round and increase my lead for the tournament. So I think midway through the round, I was up 4 strokes going into hole 11. And then this is a little stab at Simon, or a little wake-up call to say. He takes his Glow PD2, which for those of you who don't know, it is probably the most understable variation of the PD2 Discmania makes, so it flies a little farther than your average one. He decides to throw it on hole 11 with a left to right wind, and he hits the building way far out of bounds, where I'm throwing one of my more overstable ones, just trying to put in the fairway. And to me, I think he was like, he shouldn't have started to go that aggressive. 4 strokes with, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 holes. Yeah, 7 holes left to play. Anything could happen. Those last holes are pretty treacherous. I think Simon should find a little bit more faith in himself, because I felt like I was on point that weekend, but Simon was just as much on point. If he would have just stuck to a more simple game plan, you never know. I think he should give himself a little bit more credit and roll with the punches and stick it out to the end.
Well, and some of us, sometimes we know that Simon, of course, he wants to win. Everybody wants to win. Sometimes Simon has admittedly said he almost feels that entertaining and entertaining the crowd and throwing fun shots maybe sometimes is a little bit more satisfying for him than necessarily how the score results.
Yeah, but I don't think that was this case.
No? Okay.
No, just watching, I just think you're right. He wanted as much distance as he could get, and he threw it, and honestly, no surprise from our cameraman, no one was ready for it to go over there, because everybody is expecting a Spike Heiser from, at most I was thinking, if he gets really aggressive, maybe he lays down a roller here and tries to, for whatever, but he threw it and it vanished. It was a white disc and it went where nobody expected. And Nate and Val are like, Val's like, I think he just threw into the houses over there, which I know because I've been there when the tee pad used to be up top.
Yeah, you were about 300 feet back probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I don't know where it landed, but the tee pad used to be up top and you'd throw a big hyzer down into the ravine. And, you know, being a crappy am player, I've thrown over there before, but to watch Simon just flip a disc, my head was blown. I was like, what is he doing? But I think he was trying to get aggressive to catch you.
Yeah, and I threed that hole, and it was up to 6 after that. And once that happened, it wasn't over for me, but that's when I'm just like, I go into, I guess, prevent defense mode in my head, just thinking, okay, I just need to throw in the fairway and not do anything stupid, and then I should be fine.
Yeah,
but,
and you did that on hole 17. You laid up, what, a 30-foot putt? Not even?
Yeah.
And for the risk of maybe going out of bounds?
I missed my first putt inside the circle of the weekend.
Yeah, I know.
Damn you, Des.
It ate you up just a little bit. I know you were talking to you about the interview at the end when it was said negative 49, and everyone was thinking, if he would have got that one on 17. But
I mean, at the end of the day, you're cashing the biggest check, and you're standing there with the first place trophy. I mean, does it really matter how many negative you are?
It matters.
Yes,
it matters.
That's a yes
No.
for you. All right, fair enough.
A 50 would have been cool, but yes, of course, walking in the wind takes precedent over anything else. And maybe it was my fault for throwing the tee shot that far away for
there you go.
that sketchy putt.
So yeah, and it's funny because I was out on the course. I was doing some recording of another card, so I didn't really know how much of or any of that really played out. But I know the very next hole you speak of, you know, you're telling that story on the par 4 on 11. Hole 12 is still kind of daunting. I mean, there are plenty of people that have given away a lot of strokes on hole 12. It can give you a little bit of that tin cup feel that people are going for that. Now, you should be able to get up and down after you've gone. It'll be the first time if you move down by water's edge. But getting up and over that water, that's a stressful shot. And it looks like, you know, you were maybe a little bit more at ease. Now your lead just increased to 6. You know, that does more than just give you the strokes. It boosts your confidence. And I think maybe that's even underplayed out there by what Simon did. So
absolutely, yeah. Hole 12 is no joke. I was listening to the post-produced commentary, and they said that it was the hardest hole on the course,
relative to par.
So, yeah, and when we stepped up on the tee, there was a significant headwind as well, which doesn't make it any easier. And yeah, I threw a sidearm pretty hard just to make sure I got safe. Still, just trying to not do anything stupid and not mess up.
Well, let's talk about. So you just mentioned par and all that stuff. So first of all, shout out to you, Disc. Of course, we only know those things thanks to Matt and Josh and Daniel and all the other all those smart people, plus the amazing scorekeepers. So shout out to all of those people. But let's talk about the courses specifically. There's always every year. There's a fresh new set of either complaints or criticisms of people saying it's a big hyzer fest and it's too easy. How do you answer some of those things when someone says they're too easy and we shouldn't even be playing there, for instance? Like, how would you answer those things? Do you agree or disagree even?
Oh, okay. Let me find my professional way of speaking.
Dig deep.
Come on, this is SmashBoxx. We don't need that.
No,
okay,
I want your honest opinion, and if you don't, we're ready for it.
So, in my opinion, this tournament is very iconic. I don't even know how many years it's been on the pro scene now, and it's turned to be something really prestigious. We start the year in Scottsdale every year, and it's great. But the courses, as time goes on, I believe are starting to be more and more outdated. To see Fountain seeing scores like me and Simon shot, and even scores that other people shot, is at some point I think is we're going to have to move to a different course for the Memorial Championships. Of course, Fountain, there's so many great things involved with Fountain. It's so picturesque. It's warm, it's beautiful, but I think it's a little bit soft. And the way it works, it puzzles me. I shoot a 15 under. It was 1101 rated, and I'm stoked about my first 1100 rated round, but it did not feel like my best round ever. The round in Vegas felt better because the course was tougher. So, and I understand why the course produces such good ratings, but I don't understand at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah. As time goes on, I think these courses become more and more outdated. I'd say in the next 2 to 3 years, I'd like to see the venue potentially change. The thing with, I think Vista holds a little bit stronger to more modern day disc golf, because if you look at any single hole out there, a catastrophe could happen. Even on hole 2, Simon proved that it's an exciting hole by shanking it out of bounds.
Yeah,
And
thanks, Simon.
Well,
so
was it hole 3 or hole 4? I think it was hole 3 then, where he shanked his hyzer and caught a tree. And then hole 4, you followed up and did almost the identical thing on the very next hole, where you caught the trees that are right in your hyzer line. Like, everyone says how much this is just a big hyzer fest, but there is a little, like you said, there's a little danger on a lot of those. And this year,
And the trees do play as 6-6.
Yep.
And I saw that burn a few people as well.
And this year they tried to make it more difficult with lifting up a lot of the baskets. I mean, it looked like there was at least seven raised baskets out there.
So let's move right to that. That was my second part of the question.
I knew that.
Where what do you feel about the raised baskets? Is there a right amount? Were they used correctly here? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Would you like to see more or less of them?
Well, I definitely would like to see less of them. I think the amount that were out on that course was a bit excessive. It felt like every other hole.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, my putting style works really well for raised baskets. I can control my speed. I know how to hit the angle very well, but just I think it's kind of a crutch, and just trying to make something seem a little bit more exciting than it actually is, where just a normal basket's completely fine. Because I know at Vista that there's known raised baskets, because I think it's hole what's the Mando hole? I think it's like hole 5,
4 or 5, yeah.
5.
That's typically been raised. Yep.
5, old hole 18, and I think maybe 2 to 3 is fine, maybe even 4. But when it starts pushing past that, I think it kind of looks bad, and it looks like we may be trying a little bit too hard.
Well, and that's exactly an intro. I love that question as a follow-up, because we just talked about whether these courses are dated, whether these courses are maybe too easy, and that's exactly the point. As you're saying, is are they trying to make it a little bit tougher, and whether you want to call that artificially or not, that's obviously the point, is to make it a little bit tougher, or at least feel tougher. The question is that the right answer, or is that just an answer? And that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I don't know like how it affects the scoring. I feel like for maybe the field, it's maybe like I'd have a hard time saying that's even a stroke harder for the entire round. But I don't know. For me, it's more about just the way it looks, because I don't know. You just don't. Other tournaments around the country on tour, you don't see 7 raised baskets.
Sure.
It doesn't happen.
Well, and now we say all of this after this weekend, and with Dana, I was claiming that I think this is the calmest 4 days the Memorial has ever seen. Well, in the last 15 years I've been there. I do truly believe that. If you could somehow average the wind for the 4 rounds that were played, it has to be the calmest. You put a 10 or a 15 mile an hour wind out there on any or all of those days, those raised baskets potentially could be game changers for any given round, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, we were completely blessed with 4 days of just pure sunshine, shorts and t-shirts, smiles on everyone's faces. But yeah, every time I played the Memorial, you could pretty much always count on maybe 2 really nice days like we had, a rainy day and a windy day. So maybe that's why I'm talking like this, saying maybe the courses are dated. But I mean, if you compare with other courses out on tour that you see Vegas, that's it's only getting longer. Glassblown Open is another example. They're always trying to move the needle forward and create a different kind of paradigm for disc golf. And these courses in 2005, I mean, they're probably pretty difficult relative to the field, the technology. But now we have all these like PD2 style discs, and the level of play increasing so much that you have to be birdieing pretty much every single hole if you even want to have a chance.
You know, back when Climo was there was Cobras and Vipers, and those were the fastest. Anyway, some of you might have to look that up, believe it or not, as to what I'm referencing.
I would like to know, because let's say if you go back to 2004, what was the winning score for the Memorial? It was still at Fountain Hills and Vista, correct?
One of those years, I remember it was when I first visited. They were draining Fountain and putting a new liner in there, and I'm sure somebody out here knows. One year it was not played at all. That might have been 2005, actually. That might have been my first year, and they heavily had to rely on Vista because they drained the fountain entirely, and that's all lined, some kind of special liner, in that area. I mean, we've seen great scores out there. Obviously, we saw, a Macbeth with a 39 out there one year. And it felt like always double digits were a hot score under par. And then they kind of redesigned a few of the holes. I mean, it's undergone a few changes throughout the years, for sure. But when you're out there, and I don't know if it shows it on there,
it doesn't. I looked up 2004. Timmy Gill, congratulations on winning in 2004. There was only 3 rounds for a lot of years, and so I believe it was Vista Fountain Vista usually.
Yeah. I think Fountain was actually played multiple times. We'd need a we'd need a Stork or
no, that makes much more sense when Timmy Gill shot.
I'll ask Avery. Avery knows everything about that kind of stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll get Avery on at some point.
See Josh Anthon out there with some of the hot scores. Just a quick, since Johnny pulled it up, I'm going to run down a few names. And this is 2004 results. This is just really for fun. Winner was Timmy Gill, definitely a breakout event winner there. Barry Schultz in second, Cam Todd in third, Dave Felberg, tied for third, Steve Rico, Mike Randolph, Sonny Ashby, there's a name, Josh Anthon, is that John Child?
John Child, Carlo Pelg, Chris Vilmorin, Ken Climo in 12th, and Ron Russell in 12th, and Avery Jenkins in 14th. So yeah, we could talk to Avery about that.
Anyway, kind of fun. He says, just give you a little insight of yesteryear. It was the very next year was the first year I attended, was 2005. Anyway.
And just for reference, Timmy Gill won with a 1057, 1025, and 1029 rated round.
And he won $2,500. So there's a little walk down yesteryear. That's
not bad for back then.
It certainly wasn't. It certainly was not. So what I was going to say, it almost feels personal, but it's not. What ultimately was first place check for this?
The first place check was $3,750.
Okay, awesome. And I believe around $2,500-ish for second, if I recall. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
I think so. You got to ask Simon for that.
You don't worry about those numbers.
Yeah.
So last year you came out of the gate scorching hot. Won 3 NTs in a row. Is that correct? You won.
I won 2 in a row. I missed the Masters Cup, or I played it, but I didn't win.
Okay, and then got GBO.
Beaver State Fling.
Okay. And then at that point, you still had a pretty good season, but you stopped winning. What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be going to do anything differently this year? You're kind of known in a lot of circles as more of a open style golf player, that you excel at those type of courses. When we move more towards the east side of the country, we become a much more wooded type of golf. Do you feel that way, that your game elevates early in the season, or is it just the type of courses that you prefer?
Well, this is a complex question, in my opinion. First off, I'm going to say this is like, I guess, let's just call it my 4th year on tour, and maybe my like second year of being like really good, where I feel like I have my kind of head figured out and kind of know what it takes to compete. Last year, I did start out really great. I played incredible disc golf up until I'd say Kona Piste, which was mid-July. Then I took like a month off, and I think that was kind of a big reason why I maybe fell off a little bit towards the end of the year, which quote unquote falling off.
Yeah, I mean, you had
it's all relative.
It's relative. You fell off compared to the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I finished outside the top 10 one time the entire year. And on the wooded courses, I actually feel like I did really well. Maple Hill, I took 8th place with a horrendous round, so I fought back incredibly well. Worlds, I don't even count it because it's at Vermont, and that place is just my nemesis. But like the Delaware Disc Golf Challenge, the Hall of Fame Classic, for both of those events, I was completely bogey free and took podium at both of them. So I definitely can play in the woods. I definitely, my game does reach greater heights when I have the opportunity to use my distance to my advantage. But I can shape shots in the woods, something I do want to get better at. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Waco next week, which is a more wooded style course, to kind of see if I can prove myself on my quote unquote early season spiciness, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Waco is a good combination of open and wooded. You've got, I would say, 2/3 of it is wooded, and then 1/3 of it is a little more open for you can throw at the distance there. So I'm looking forward to it. I won't get to see it until after I get back, but it'll be it's going to be. Can anyone beat Coling there? He seems to have that place on lockdown for some reason. Like, that guy just
Yeah, when I think of Waco, I think of 3 people. I think of Jeremy Coling, Nate Perkins, and James Conrad. They seem to tear that place apart.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the style of golf, the shape of the holes that fit Coling so well, but he always seems to excel there. So
I think he feels at home with the wooded shots. It's very tight, and he just throws buttery sidearms.
Yeah, what do you feel like, and maybe this is an all too obvious question, but were power hyzers really just your shot of choice just over and over again? I apologize, I didn't see all of your play this weekend, but were you just relying constantly just power hyzer every time you had a chance this last weekend?
I'd say Simon's more the power hyzer guy. I can definitely do a power hyzer, but Simon's Mr. Spike Man. I like to play maybe a little bit more glide on my hyzers, starting on maybe flat, throwing an overstable disc. But I mean, it's still hyzer. So yeah, that was pretty much the shot of choice, whether it be forehand or backhand. Pretty much every hole out there allowed you to throw some sort of shot. I don't think I'll think real quick here. I don't think I threw one straight shot off the tee.
Okay.
It was some sort of hyzer variant. Actually, no, I threw some rollers, but
yeah,
those are still throwing really hard. And yeah,
I couldn't remember what you threw on. Is it? I think it's hole 10. No, I'm sorry, hole 9 over the water. If that was a straight shot, I know Simon takes the hyzer over everything. And did you throw a forehand there, or did you go straight at it?
I threw a forehand hyzer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how hole 9 at both courses are like the ultimate par 2, par 3 tweener. Is that a fair way to put it on both Fountain and Vista? Anybody else notice that? There's an article. No?
Whoa.
No? You
There's
did? Where are you at now?
Definitely an article.
Hole 9, people.
No.
No?
They're definitely some more difficult holes out on the properties.
They are.
And yeah,
That's a very astute observation. I'm going to give it to myself.
Yeah, you do that.
Both
You call
holes
the world
you're
and tell them you want to write
completely
them.
happy with threeing. So
So
I know I was happy threeing them.
There you go.
One last question about the course. This year we had a new hole 18, which is actually a really, really old hole 18. If you ask some of the like Nate Dost, who was talking about it, did you like the change up? Do you like that particular hole as a finishing hole?
I do. I at first looking at it, it was kind of sketchy because the landing area is really small. But after in retrospect, I think it could be a really exciting hole to see how things unwind, because you could do what I did. You could try to play a shot out of bounds and get the circle 3 putt if you were maybe up by 2 strokes. So there is certain strategies to that hole to play safe, but there's definitely the aggressive shot that can most likely get you a stroke on the field. So I think it was a great change compared to the previous hole 18, which is now hole 1. And to add to that, I think the new hole 1 is way better than the previous hole 1. So overall, I think both changes are very positive.
Nice, very nice. Well, he said that was the last course question, but I've got one that still is in that neighborhood. You got to 36 holes at each course. Is there one hole or one shot that sticks out in your mind that you still wish, like, you just know you didn't nail it, or you didn't play it well or favorably? Is there one hole on each course where you're like, yeah, I'd really like that one back, or I'd love to go get that one?
It would be Fountain round 2, hole 4, second shot, which is
roughly
my
okay.
only bogey. The putt. I was just outside the circle, maybe by like a foot. I was forced to go to a knee. And I don't know, the basket looked really big. I was feeling really confident with the putter. But for some reason, I just decided to glide it right over top of the basket and go straight out of bounds. And Simon just hit a huge putt before that, and he got 2 strokes on me. And I'm like, oh, no, did I just give away the tournament right there?
Day 2 or whatever, yeah.
So that was the shot on Fountain. And then Vista. That's a good question. Okay, sure. Hole 17. I wish I got it closer on
that's fair.
the last round.
All right, so I'm going to reverse that slightly.
I was going to, go ahead.
And say what were like, oh yeah, I was dialed, or I pimped that hole, whatever you kids say these days. 2 holes you had like just absolutely dialed in at each course, or give us one hole from each course over the weekend. Maybe you birdied it both times, maybe you didn't, but your 2 best shots out there on those 2.
Best I'll give you the hole that was most dialed in on. I've felt this way for a long time now. I guess probably the last 3 Memorials I've played is hole 18 on Fountain. That hole seems really simple to me.
Awesome.
I throw an S-Line PD2 just really hard on a hyzer, and it seems to always just filter right to the circle. And it's probably one of the more difficult holes out on the course, but I feel like personally it's one of the most easy. And I threw some great shots on it this past weekend. And then for Vista, it's a good question. Let's see. Oh gosh, what's that? What's the whole number on that one? 15, 14. Is it 13? The first one.
After the long walk.
Yep. I remember 3rd round. We were having a backup, and I decided to walk around the lake so I could take a better look of like how the trees were positioned and what kind of hyzer I kind of needed to throw in order to get to the basket, because the way the hole lays out, there's like this big I guess pine-like tree that's kind of a guardian, and there's some other trees that really block the hyzer. So I went over to the other side. I was like scoping out what gaps I can hit, and For both rounds, I threw the perfect hyzer exactly how I pictured in my head, and I got 2 huge birdies, which got strokes on Simon both rounds. So
yeah, I
hole
mean, you
13.
got to say, is that a little? Does that feel? And maybe I think you just answered it. Does that kind of feel like a bonus birdie? I mean, it's clearly gettable, but that's got to be one of the tougher birdies out there. No,
It
hole 13?
does. It definitely does.
Okay.
You're not mad if you don't get it because you almost expect to. You either expect to hit the trees, go left, or throw it too long in the water. So getting a par is completely fine on the hole, and to birdie it, it's just it kind of gets you rolling for the last part of the course.
Well, now I want to ask one more course question. So everybody gets excited when you and Simon walk up to hole 11, the one roller hole. Do you feel that as well? Do you feel any sort of expectation to perform on that hole with some of your prior throws?
Yeah, I honestly do. Yeah, it was last year where we both put crazy rollers like past that gazebo. I remember I rolled through the gazebo, which is out of bounds, and I don't know, it like rolled through someone's legs or something crazy if I remember. So there definitely is some there's some expectations for fireworks on that hole. So I think we delivered fairly well. Our drives weren't embarrassing this year, so we don't have to worry about that till next year.
All right. Well, it's the Memorial has, like you said, adjusted. It's adapted. For many years, the National Tour opener in Vegas was a really big, great event that was happening before it. Now we've seen it kick off the Pro Tour. Vegas is certainly continuing in its 20th year, where everyone was, continuing to grow and expand. And these 2 weeks back-to-back, is it the right time? Is it the right place to be at this time of year to kick off the season? Are you good with the timing and everything else, the way these two events now play, especially with that extra day between them?
I do enjoy how the events are back-to-back, but there is one. If there was a perfect world, I would honestly like to see both events pushed back maybe a week or two, because it is. I don't think it's possible, because that's when it starts getting hotter in both places, and maybe like spring training is pretty busy in Arizona right now, and I don't. But hypothetically, if both those events could get pushed back a week or two to give the off season a little bit more time, and it also would make the transition into the season, the actual season, a lot easier, because we have Waco in 2 weeks, but then there's kind of like a
lull,
a pretty big lull, and I think in the future, I think we could see it. I'd like to see it flow a lot better.
Okay. No, I think that's great. Would you love to see, I mean, I think about, Waco, which is in 2 weeks. Would you like to see a week between these two events, a full-blown, week? Maybe there's some other A-tier even. Would you love to see a week between these two events rather than them being back-to-back, Vegas and Memorial?
I'm almost so used to having them back-to-back that I almost like it.
Okay.
To add to Eagles' perfect world, I would like to maybe see Vegas start on Wednesday and end on Saturday, and then have Memorial start Thursday and end on Sunday. So that would make for 4 days. So I think that would be a really cool thing to see.
Also, for an Eagles' perfect world, do you see these events both remaining 4 day instead of 3? Do you like the 4-day format for these two events? Because everything else that's not a major is less days this year.
Really? Glassbone opens 4 rounds.
All right. Well, I'm just making stuff up here. All right. Well, most of the other stuff.
Beaver State Flings is 4 rounds?
That's 4 rounds over 3 days.
But yeah.
Okay.
And almost every other A-tier, every other Pro Tour, almost all of the other NTs, almost all other non-majors are just 3 days. Or do you like the 4 days for both of these?
In general, I'm a big advocate of 4-day tournaments in general. So I'd like to see almost every tournament 4 days, just because I think it's a true test to see who the best player that weekend is.
Yeah, and you're like 20 though, so.
No, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
We would be doing a disservice to your sponsor if we didn't at least talk a few minutes about the big announcement a few weeks ago. Yep, the Evolution. Give us your take and a nice big drink of water. Give us your take on some of the new discs, what you're excited to see, what you have personally been able to throw.
Okay, yeah. I want to say sorry real quick to you, Maresma, because I'm supposed to have some Evolution discs right beside me, but they are in the car right now, and I don't feel like going to get them because it is pretty cold. So I'm sorry about that, but I can tell you about my feelings. So in general, I'm really excited about the move. What Discmania did, for those who don't know, we are now partnered with 3 different disc manufacturers, which is the first company to ever do that, I believe. So we're keeping our relationship with Innova. We are now partnering with Latitude 64, which is the Evolution line. And then our third partner is Yikun Discs from China. And what this does basically offers new products to our customers, a little bit more variety. And for the team members, which I'm most excited about, perhaps in a year or two, a big competitive edge over everyone else, because we can have more freedom to have different plastics in our bags to really throw things that we really like. So I think in pretty much all aspects, it's really positive.
When there was an announcement and this all came to light, how much were you in the know? I mean, there was talks about like non-disclosure agreements being signed and everything else. Did you have any input in this, or was this something that UC just kind of called up one day and told you was happening?
I did not know about it for a long time. I kind of was getting hints about it maybe early or late last year, maybe around November, December, but I had no idea what to expect. All I heard was that UC made some of his top employees sign $100,000 non-disclosure agreements, and wow. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing here? This is crazy." And then I got a hint by Austin Montgomery, high up in Discmania US, in January. He says, "All right, here's a little hint for you. This big announcement that we're going to be making, you're going to have new discs in your bag." And when he said that, I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And of course, the first thing I thought is we were going to start manufacturing our own discs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the way UC told me is here comes a terrible Finnish accent. He's like, "Eagle, I have something for you. You give me your address and you let me know when it comes, okay?" And
nice.
And he sent it like 2-day mail all the way from Finland. It would probably cost like $80 or something.
Wow.
And he said, right when I got it, he says, "You call me and I have instructions for how you're supposed to open it."
Wow.
Which those instructions basically were set up a camera and film your reaction. So if you did not, you can go watch my reaction of me opening it for the first time, pop open the box, and I see a Latitude 64 disc stamped with a Discmania, which it's a brand new mold. It's not an existing Latitude 64 mold. That's something that I should clarify. We are making brand new molds with Latitude, brand new molds with Yikun. We're not going to be molding up a quote unquote Latitude P2.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to be unique. So yeah, it's I was super surprised because I didn't think that a company really could branch out with partner with, let's say, Innova, Latitude, just because it's never been done before. It's kind of like Nike or Adidas, if you think about it. Uh, Nike doesn't make all their clothes in one factory. They make them all around the world, just because that's more power for them. So I
Yeah.
think it makes sense in all others like areas of business, but I just think disc golfers aren't used to that in the sport right now.
And we want to clarify, because we know this is the question that everybody keeps asking whenever this is brought up. You're still just throwing Discmania stamped discs, basically, just the ones that are
Yes.
meant for Discmania. Your bag does not expand into the
A
trilogy
Felon
lineup.
or
It is just going to be the ones that Latitude molds for Discmania.
Correct. Yes, it has to say Discmania on the stamp in order for us to be able to throw it. And I don't believe that. Let's say, I know this question gets asked a lot. Oh, Ricky's going to be able to throw a harp, right? That's not at all, because Innova and Discmania, as you see, are two completely different brands now. We work closely together, but I don't think Innova players are going to be able to throw Latitude discs indirectly through us.
yeah, correct. Okay, makes perfect sense. And as released tonight, and finally they're all up, and I'm hearing that it's available and everyone's starting to take it in when they have a moment. I wanted to quickly give you a shout out and thank you as we transitioned from over being in Vegas to then coming down to the Memorial. Again, you and I stayed with Boyd Brown, a host extraordinaire. Thank you so much, Boyd and First Light. You graciously stepped in and provided some commentary on the FPO game, and specifically the FPO final round chase card of Vegas. Do you, first of all, again, thank you, but then also, do you feel like that's something you're going to continue to explore, something that you really enjoy doing, and do you have any limitations on commentary?
Yeah. Thank you, Terry, for having me on the mic. I do enjoy doing commentary. It's something I'll always do if I'm asked. That's kind of my rule. Like if Jomez asked me, then of course Central Coast, and I just always see it as an opportunity to learn and refine, getting better at it. Of course, a lot of the time it doesn't sound good coming out of your mouth, and for me, I think it sounds better than what it feels like, which is a good sign. I'd like to keep doing it, but that'll depend on whether people want me or not. I'd like to maybe, I don't know. I really, if I really pursue it, I'd almost want to go to like a class for it, just to make sure I'm doing it like actually good.
Well, I'll let you skip that. I mean, I feel like there's some people that are naturally good at it, some people that struggle a little bit, and that could be of public speaking, that might be of broadcasting, or everything in between. But you being such a refined student of the game, you knowing what you already know what you're talking about when it comes to strategies and how you're attacking a course. And then you, of course, having that comfort level with, in the past, being in front of a camera and then doing your vlogs and all of those types of things. I don't think you would need a class. If anything, it's just a matter of all of us, myself included, always just kind of refining exactly your approach. Are you trying to be funny? Are you trying to be more colorful? Are you trying to be, the straight shot caller? Like everyone, I think it's just a matter of refining that specific approach while you're on the mic. But in terms of everything else that you have going, you've got all those skills. It's just a matter of now, picking your angle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I mean class, I mean, yeah, public speaking or broadcasting could really help. Just kind of ironing out a few things, like finding the art of like timing, when to talk, knowing exactly what to say. But just look at Jeremy Colling and Nate Sexton. When they first started, I don't think they really had any experience doing anything like it. But doing it over and over again, they they've become really good at it, I believe. Like, I really enjoy hearing big, sexy commentary. I think it is the premium out in the disc golf world. And yeah, it's amazing what you can do if you do something week in out, week out, which they did last year. So
Yeah, and I enjoy at least half of that combo. I mean,
You're just not going to tell us which half?
No, but there's a lot to be said about that. As they got
the repetition
in.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're getting a great product out of what Jomez is putting on the screen in front of them, and then just the sheer repetition and that comfort with one another, and that consistency of having one another. All of those things have factored in for them to be a tolerable team. I mean, a great team. I'm just kidding. But for all of those things, those all have to come together. And I think as a sport, yourself included, myself, everyone, on the women's side, on the men's side, we're all trying to find that kind of that comfortable team or people that you're repeating it with, so that it gets better and better with each and every go around. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
Very
for
cool.
sure. I need to find my other counterpart. I've done it with Simon a few times, and according to the YouTube comments, people do like that. And yeah, I guess I'll take some more applications for another.
Let me
another
follow up then.
duo.
Luke Butch is on the board, but let me follow up and ask. You know, I'll be the first to admit I've openly complained about it or stressed about it, that I have a lot of video that actually gets put together relatively quickly, and one of the biggest challenges or hurdles is bringing in those outside pros, because people want to hear from them, and I'd rather have pros than myself doing commentary. So my question to you, though, is as I have a Maricopa completely, edited, a B tier, I have Thailand completely edited, so on and so forth. How do you feel about commentating on rounds or events that you weren't there or you had no part of? Do you feel like that would you shy away from that at all?
Oh, not at all. I think it's
hired.
It's
You're hired. I didn't hear no more. I'm gonna call you every day.
You will. That's the sad part.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for putting me on the spot right there.
Well, I'm totally truthful when I say that has again, Jomez, with having their editing booth now with them, and it's a set schedule that every day, the next day is when someone is doing the commentary. If you're not on that schedule because you're every other content producer, there's an extra hurdle or two, and I'm faced with that. Sometimes Central Coast is. So those are the types of things that we're looking to get dialed in, and I would love to have you, and I think we'll have to talk offline about having you for a few things. It'd be great. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
It's the best way to refine the craft, because I'm not going to go make my own disc golf videos and just try commentary. So
well, let's talk about your vlogging.
Oh yeah.
Where does it stand? Does it take a back seat a little bit in the off season? What's your vision? Or on season, what's your vision? Here in 2019, what should we expect
for my vlogging? Okay, so I've been talking to UC Maresma, and we have come to agreement that there's going to be 10 vlogs on the Discmania channel that I'll produce for them, and then pretty much all the rest of the events will be on my channel, Eagles Vlog. So make sure you go subscribe to that if you have not. Shameless plug. But yeah, this year my vlogs are kind of interesting in the fact that they just kind of unfold. I'm not really trying that hard, which doesn't sound good, but it's just natural. It's what when I feel like filming out there, what's comfortable filming, because I don't want to be the person who's always like shoving a camera in someone's face in like inopportune times, because those are usually the times that are best for vlogging, like when someone's eating or doing something silly. It kind of gets annoying after a while, but occasionally, you never know. But the reason I started vlogging was actually just kind of to log all my experiences of being a professional disc golfer. So I think it'll be really cool to look back in like 10 years or so, if I'm not playing disc golf, to see like what I did and how I can remember each weekend a little bit more in depth, how I was feeling, what haircut I had. I don't know what pimple I had on my face. I don't know. It's just things like that.
It's your digital diary.
Mhm. And if people want to follow along and watch, then that's fine by me.
Okay, awesome. Now, what wasn't it here on Smashbox? What did you turn 18?
I did that was the only other time I've been on Smashbox,
Seriously?
right? Yeah.
No.
Haven't you
No.
stepped in when we've been on site?
Yes, at Glassblown.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I
Uh-huh.
thought
Okay.
so. I thought so.
Okay. Wow.
This is the first
But
official
This is
Smashbox interview.
Wow.
that's embarrassing for us.
Yeah.
But B, we're happy to have you, especially when you win like this.
Yeah.
And,
Well.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say I was
It's a good
flattered. You easily win my heart over when we were talking.
Did he
and-
bring you food?
No, we were talking and wrapping things up. We did a quick little interview that I did for my videos this weekend, and then immediately after the high fives and the congrats, he said, "Yeah, and let me know if you need me for Tuesday or whatever." I'm like, "Heck yeah, you know exactly how this goes.
That's
you
what-
win and you're on."
It's like the Super Bowl when people say, "I'm going to Disney World." I want every time someone wins a major event to be like, "I hope I'm the one on Smashbox this week."
yeah. I mean, what more could we want?
For sure.
All right, so my final media-related question would be: do you consume? I think of a Nate Sexton who takes in a lot. Paul Macbeth takes in more disc golf media than I thought he did, but and Nate takes in a lot. Do you consume a lot of disc golf media, if not all?
I definitely do consume disc golf media. I'd say the most is tournament footage. Usually, wherever I am, I watch Jomez, Central Coast, or whoever's doing the post-produced coverage the day after, just because I want to see how the players are playing, what the course is playing like for some people, maybe get new ideas. But as far as like other stuff, like extracurricular stuff, like vlogs and
Practice
such and
rounds.
so forth, practice rounds, I honestly haven't been recently, just because I'm 20 years old now, and like there's a lot of things to do. Like right now, I'm like getting tax papers together. I got to deal with some annoying health insurance stuff. So I don't really have the luxury to just watch all the disc golf media anymore. So
Okay. No, fair. I mean,
Wait till you hit to be 21, then there'll be even more things for you to do.
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
seriously.
There's so many vlogs out there. I mean, whether it's Dynamic Disc and everything they're doing with all tons of their team members,
Hannah and
and Paul doing things, Simon doing a vlog. I mean, there's a lot of vlogs. There's more
Yuli.
podcasts. There's all of those types of things to consume now, and I think it's always great when we hear so many of our pros that are actually consuming other people's content throughout the week. It's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, being a disc golfer, you're going to automatically consume the stuff that gets popular, because everyone's going to be talking about it, and they're just going to show it to you immediately. So it's I definitely don't avoid it. I'm always open to it, but I'd say my consumption level is at a healthy rate.
Okay, well
That's
that's good. And then the Disc Golf Pro Tour media, we're gonna segue out of talking with you about it into probably our own conversation. But as we start to part ways here, the Pro Tour media, obviously under a lot of scrutiny this weekend, had some legitimate challenges. Probably was even challenged more than it should have been in some ways, but some stuff rightfully so. Do you have a stance? Do you feel like you're fully educated on where everything is, and do you have a stance on how it's moving forward?
I'm going to speak to the level that I am educated about it, and I'm going to try not to push past that. The Pro Tour, I came in with an open mind. I of course want it to be as successful as possible. In general, I'm a fan of it, because if the Disc Golf Pro Tour grows, disc golf grows in general, and it's created amazing opportunities for a lot of players that weren't available to us in years prior. So there's so many positives about it. And taking the median in-house, I can see why a lot of people are upset, because it's it just people don't really like change in general. So did the Pro Tour deliver? I think on the live stream, they definitely ironed a whole bunch of things out, pun intended. But yeah, Nate and Val were great. I did enjoy the live. I looked back on it, and I think it was fairly good. One thing that I felt that was pretty subpar was the post-produced. I had a hard time watching it. It was just knowing that they used the live footage and added some graphics to it and commentary. I didn't like that look when I'm used to having just this very polished look for a post-produced round, and I hope to see that they sort that out in the future, just because so many disc golfers have gotten so spoiled with great post-produced coverage, and that's almost become the norm. So I think on that end, they have to deliver if they want to make the fans happy, and I think they will, because Steve Dodge obviously does not want this to fail, and I think he's a very hard worker. It's shown. This is I guess it's his third or fourth year of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And that's his main gig. And if I'm doing something with my whole heart and soul, I'm going to want to make it good. So I have faith in Steve Dodge that he'll do so.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think you've worded it. I'm on par with what you're saying on almost every account. You know, obviously there were a few misses this week, and Steve. You know, we kind of already talked about it with Dana as we closed out with him. His heart's in the right place. He wants to make things work. He's clearly trying hard, and things will continue to improve. I have no doubt about that. And it wasn't knocked out of the park this weekend, and I'm not bashful about saying that. I think a lot of people will say that, and then some. So there's room for improvement, and maybe it didn't even start off as good as that what we hoped for or thought that it might. But, again, hopefully only all trending in the right direction on the way up. So. All right, Eagle. Well, we appreciate your time. It was, I got to play fanboy a little bit as well this weekend. It was great hanging out with you. I know I didn't even see you for the first day or two. You and I were just both running around on different schedules. You were winning tournaments and shooting a million under par, but it was a lot of fun hanging out and doing the commentary. And it was awesome walking up that 18th hole. You know, the final hole of the tournament. You just trying to contain smiles or emotions and everything else that was going on. That's got to feel really good having all those extra strokes in your back pocket so that you can just gleefully throw out of bounds and still walk away with a victory. It was really awesome. Any parting shots for us tonight before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to thank a few people. Of course, I want to thank Boyd Brown, super host. He probably a big reason why I didn't see you the first day is because his house is so big. So there's a lot of room to explore there. I want to, of course, thank my dad for being my travel partner for the first 3 weeks. He played a big role. Discmania, of course, without them, I would not be doing what I'm doing. The amount of support that they give me on a daily basis is incredible. Grip Bags, Adidas Outdoor, Whale Sack, Disc Golf Strong, Seth Muncie. He's got a good thing going, guys. If you have not, check out Disc Golf Strong. He focuses on a lot of functional movements and a lot of stability that'll greatly help your disc golf game, but also prevent injuries so you can play disc golf for a long time to come. And I want to thank you guys for having me on here. And yeah, I'm happy to come on when I win from now on.
Aha. Well, you don't have to win. We'll still invite you other times, but
okay.
It's a given that when you win, we definitely want to hear from you at least then. And if things keep going in the right direction, I think that's going to be more often as we keep moving forward. So looking forward to seeing you at the next one. Good luck in Waco. I don't think either of us will personally see you, but good luck there. Good luck moving forward. I know we'll be in person, at least at the GBO, if not before then. And thanks so much for all your time tonight. Everybody loved having you, and that includes us for sure. So we appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night. See you, Eagle.
All right. Peace. Peace. Keep on dreaming.
I was going to say that. Keep
No,
on dreaming.
He got it.
He got it,
in.
and he should have. That's
right.
his line. That's not mine. So, yes, of course, thank you to Eagle.
Great to have him on. I didn't realize that we hadn't had him on as like an
I
actual
know.
guest before, because I know he was on, obviously he was on at GBO a couple years ago in coverage, and he was on when he turned 18, and then for some reason in my head, I think I conflated the fact that he came in at GBO one time as having him on. So I didn't realize that was the first time we brought him on, and I'm happy we have him.
Absolutely. I'd love to have him on even more. He's
Call him back.
As so many of you, it was no big secret that he was he's very well spoken, well put together. He knows that this is a job, this is his lifestyle. This is a little bit of all of that and then some. And just such a great guy to have. So, and it was a lot of fun seeing him and being able to hang out a little bit. If somebody I'll give away a little secret. A lot, not all, clearly. A lot of our top athletes at these tournaments, I think calm and reserved. Those are a couple words that I think of when I've had the pleasure of sharing some living quarters and space with some of our top players at some events. They're not all wild and crazy. They're not doing too much at night. I know, I think of staying in some of the few times in Florida where Paul Macbeth has stayed. He watches a few YouTube videos. If his wife wasn't there, he was, texting back and forth with her, just relaxing. Things are kind of on the down low, and I feel like Eagle very much had that mentality this weekend, and clearly it was part of a winning strategy, and gets good sleep, does all those adult-like professional athlete responsible things. Very, very impressive.
So you're saying
now, not all of them.
No.
I ran into a few that weren't. Maybe a few that, like one that took second this weekend. He was a different approach, but
so you're
clearly
saying
still having a good
Simon
weekend.
is a little closer to what we were when we were 20 than Eagle when we were than you and I were 20.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Either way.
All
right.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. The Disc Golf Pro Tour media. And let's start, before we get into live and post-production, let's talk about an incident that we saw on hole 6 with Jessica Wiese.
Final round?
I believe it was the final round, yes. She walks up to hole 6. She throws her drive into the middle of the fairway. 6 is the long par 4-ish.
Yep, before you take the super long walk off to the next par 4. Yep, okay.
At that point then, she walks up to her approach. She throws a forehand. It's funny that I'm sitting here watching it happen live. I switch to the camera.
The catch camera?
The catch camera, which is just barely out of bounds and off to the left. And suddenly, like, I hear thump in my headphones. And other people don't hear it because we have the microphone turned off on that camera. So
okay.
All I said was, and Todd Dodge is on the call, and Todd Dodge was actually standing with the cameraman, like right next to him. And all I said was, did that just hit our cameraman? And all I kept thinking is, please say no. Please say no. And I could tell it did, because the cameraman, who felt awful about it, hands down, like, just stared at the ground like he had no clue what to do, because he was following it coming in, and his head is in a, basically his eyes are in a viewfinder. So he can't quite tell distance versus wherever. He just directed to where he was supposed to go. It hit him, and it bounces out of bounds. Hands down, it would have come in bounds. No question about it. It's a forehand. It was right on the line. The cameraman was in shock for a little bit. And then I hear in my ear Todd Dodge say something along the lines of, yes, that did definitely hit us, and it definitely stayed out of bounds. Let's not talk about it. And
Save
then
it for the podcast. Did he say that?
No, he didn't.
Oh.
He just said, let's not talk about it right now.
Okay.
Like, okay. Like, not over
I
the
know.
mics and everything like
I
that. And then literally like half a second later, Nate and Val wow, I think that hit our cameraman. Like, and all I kept thinking is like, here it goes. And I was able to chuckle about it. I know there were others probably on that card that were not probably chuckling at the time. But I want to say a couple things about it real quick. One, everybody hears her say, watch out, and then she yells, watch out, after it hits him. The problem with everybody is that audio you're hearing is coming from the camera right behind her. The first 2 times she says it, it's not a 4, it's not a yell of a watch out. That cameraman did not hear her until literally it like hit him, and you can hear her audibly scream like, what? Like she's kind of probably pissed about it. Watch out! So there's that. So the fact that she yelled it or said it 3 times, he's 250 plus feet down the fairway. I have a hard time. Second of all, as Nate even brought up, you could see his brain almost split, Nate Doss. Because part of him, I think, wanted to be like, I'm a pro, that should never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of him stopped and was like, well, if we want more media, these are the things that are going to happen. And we have to get used to that. There are other sports where cameramen get in the way. Look at baseball for foul balls. Look at, was it the football game where the punter hit the scoreboard in Dallas? Like, we see in golf, golf balls hit cameras.
Or people.
Like, these are things that are going to happen. And I saw 100 people say, like, well, it's never happened to Jomez. Maybe not, but it will.
Yeah.
At some point, it is inevitable it's going to happen. It's happened to Terry. I've seen it happen. I was on a show. I think it's fairly certain it's happened to CCDG. It's going to happen to everybody. It just depends on the severity of it. For this particular case, the result was awful because it kicked it out of bounds. The other argument I had was he couldn't see. What's worse? Had he saw it, tried to get out of the way, and then ran into the disc as he's trying to get out of the way, and then everyone's screaming, well, you should have just stood still, moron.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I don't think the cameraman's a moron. I'm pretending to be the internet. And jump out of the way and hit the disc. Or him just stand there because he wasn't quite sure the angle and what's coming in, where it hits him and goes out. I think he's in a no-win situation at that point with the internet in general. So it's an unfortunate thing. But on the other hand, as a player, I kind of have to, and I hate to say it, I kind of have to put a little bit of responsibility on a player. Whether it's a cameraman, whether it is crowd or anything, if you feel like you're going to be throwing at or towards somebody, you should warn them. If you don't warn them, I can only assume it's because you didn't mean to throw there. And again, I don't want to put like the blame on Jessica, because by no means she should be able to throw wherever she wants. But if you think you're going to like come near somebody, it seems like the right move to like, at least, hey guys, I'm coming that way, just so they're aware.
Yeah, and what I'll say, because I've been a cameraman more than most.
Yeah.
It sucks. Of course, no one's intending to do any kind of intentional interference out there. You know, this gentleman was out there doing his job and trying to do his job. And whether it was a misjudgment, whether it was flat out not seeing it, maybe it was inexperience, maybe it wasn't. I mean, there are so many factors that going into it. I'm in no position myself, obviously, to place any percentage of blame, like you said, whether it be on Jessica or the cameraman or anything in between. It sucks to say that sometimes just stuff happens, and we could argue about, should he have been 2 feet inbounds? Should he have been 3 feet out of bounds? There's so many things that factor into all of that. You know, I'll just speculate hypothesize. What if it hits off a tree and it kicked off a tree branch and then goes toward him and then it still hits him? You know, does it matter if that trajectory change is 100 feet away from him or 4 feet away from him? And it just
look at what happened to Paul Macbeth on hole 18 in the final round. He throws a big spike hyzer. I believe it either lands OB or bounces OB. It rolls, and there's people all along that border wall. They've got like the I forget who the sponsor was for 18, but one of the Pro Tour walls. It hits a dog. The dog kind of shakes, and the dog kind of kicks it up and over the OB, so it lands back in bounds. Like, hands down, there's no way Paul Macbeth should have ever been in bounds there. But a spectator who was out of bounds, just barely, literally next to the OB thing, ends up benefiting Paul. And everybody, you know, whereas it hurt Jessica and it advantaged 3 people, just the opposite for Macbeth. It helped one person and disadvantaged 3 people. Like, I get it. It sucks, and I don't ever want to see it happen. It's going to. And I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't happen very frequently. I hope we see it at most once every year or two. It just...
Well, and I will say this, whether we have 1,000 spectators out there or 100 or 10, obviously the more people you have, you would think the greater chance, but anyone could get hit on any given time and create a huge change in momentum or in outcome.
Last year, James Conrad with the
water bottle. A water bottle.
Someone dodged out of the way but left their water bottle and it hit it.
I mean, again, same idea. Similar but different, of course, with the exact specifics. But it sucks and it's unfortunate, and we don't want that to happen. No one wants that to happen. But I think to just, you know, blast any one cameraman. Now, clearly, we go out there and this cameraman's hit 7 times over 72 holes, then we have a problem. Then there's a conversation to be had.
He was out there. I mean, that was his 7th round in 4 days. He got hit. He might not be hit for 2 years if he continues to be a cameraman, and that could happen. But yeah, you're right.
You know, and as someone's asking about, you're filming the same players for multiple rounds. Don't you get the hang of their distance or trends? Absolutely not. Sure, you may know, but and I didn't see the shot, but I'm thinking as described. What if a shot comes in and it looks and it's hyzering or anhyzering or whatever the case is, and you expect it to skip up and, you know, carry a skip flare. What happens when that disc skips straight? The 1 in 10 times it does it, and it happens to skip straight at you. Or it hits off of a tree that you expect to go straight through, and then all of a sudden instead it hits and kicks right at you. I mean, there are so many variables. I honestly, I don't know the cameraman. I don't know his name. I
don't even know his name. He was camera 2.
I know nothing about the specifics, as I wasn't out there, nor did I see it. And so I'm not making excuses for anyone, but it sounds very much like a mistake. And I mean, I'll throw it out there, and it's similar but different. How many times does a referee in an NFL game get plowed over? I mean, they're considered part of the field to play at time, and I know it's impact and blah blah blah. I know maybe it's a great analogy, maybe it's not. The point is, no referee is ever trying to get in the way or trying to, you know, create any kind of interference, just like a cameraman is not trying to. And we've had this argument also when I think back to Ledgestone a couple years ago. Johnny McRae hit someone that was out of bounds, like clearly out of bounds. And the argument was whether or not the disc would have came back in bounds when they were way out of bounds. Again, I mean, where do you want people to stand? You know, at that time.
If we want spectators, they have to be X amount of distance away from the OB. Can they be right up on? It's like I said, on 18, just because there's a 1.5 foot wall, everybody stands on that wall. If there's no wall there and it's just a white line like there is on hole 6. If assuming it's a spectator, how far back should they be standing? Because they clearly shouldn't be in the realm of play. Can they stand right up on the line? That fairway like parallels, or is it
6? 6 parallels hole 14.
14, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems that could happen out there, and that's what we're looking at.
Ultimately, I saw a lot of people get upset, and you know. I don't think this cherry on the top of the ice cream sandwich that was the Disc Golf Pro Tour, to me, this was one of those things that was like people piling on, and this isn't the reason they should be. This particular one, ultimately, as I said, the cameraman, he was one of, I'll call him one of my cameramen. I don't recall this particular hole, but people will kind of move right into the next subject in that the experience of the cameraman. Now, I am used to working, I'm going to take some blame here for post-production. Now, bear with me. As we know, the post-production is using the same angles and stream quality as the live. Those post-production guys are listening to me. I am talking to them when they can move, when they can't move, when they need to sit still, not always where they should be, because they do have an idea, try to get behind the basket, try to get on par fours. That particular incident hole was a par 4. So the way it works, cameraman stands 400 feet down the fairway, everyone drives, and at that point, both cameramen have to move. So I usually cut to a Nate and Val or a commercial or previous hole coverage, and I say, camera 2, you're free, which means he can go. I was not that good at that this weekend.
You usually aren't.
Because usually I'm working with our crew, who tends to, in general, have more experience, so they have a better flow. They know when they can move and when they can't most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So I'm a lot less communicative with them. I had to be overly communicative, I felt, with this crew. And there were a lot of times in the beginning of the weekend, and even towards the end a little bit, where I would forget to tell the cameraman he can move, because I'm pulling in something that Gary's given me. I'm communicating with Nate and Val. I'm doing this, and I just don't think, cool, I'm off of that camera. Let's get to the next thing. So he's stuck there. He waits. And every once in a while, I would get Todd Dodge say, Johnny, are we clear? And I'd be like, oh, yep, sorry, camera 2, you move. I don't recall offhand if this was one of those incidents, but for the post-production stuff, a couple of the times the cameraman couldn't get into the best position because of me. And that's part of the problem of using the same group of cameramen, is that they have to rely on the live shot. So even if I do let them go, it might not always be in enough time for them to get in the best position. Even if I'm perfect at my job, which, as Terry says, I'm perfect at my job about 5% of the time. So they're getting not necessarily the best angles to do things, partially because they have to abide by live. And take that for what it is. In a perfect world, both that works out great. We're not in a perfect world.
Well, and I think one of the, the challenges, this just brings to the forefront one of the challenges that has been openly discussed, and then possibly even debated for a number of years, is Steve Dodge had asked us at SmashBoxx if it was possible to take our live stream coverage and then turn it into post-production coverage, and whether it was on the show or somewhere else, it's been said that is a very daunting task, and usually one or the other is going to suffer for the reason you just described. Yeah. You have cameramen that need to get into certain places by certain times, and there's just not that freedom. When a Michael from Jomez wants to pick up and run off to another hole,
he does it at will.
It's at will, and it's a wink and a nod or whatever with Jerry, and off he's running, and no big deal. When you're pinned in a place due to having a live shot on you, it's a totally different scenario. So I can't stress it enough that the strategy to covering live versus covering post-production, they're just worlds apart. And I've done both. I've filmed for both often to know that they are worlds apart. So that will continue. It can improve, and it will improve,
hands down.
But it will always have its own challenges, which is something I feel like we were very upfront with Steve Dodge for the last 2 or 3 years,
and
when he has said, it seems redundant to have 5 cameras You know, to have 3 Jomez cameras or 2 or 3 Smashbox cameras on a particular lead card, it does kind of seem silly, but there's been a reason for that all these years. And I'll be excited to see how the Pro Tour is going to continue to tackle that very challenge of relying on that post-production coverage to come from the live feeds. There's going to be legitimate just challenges that go along with that in a number of ways. Now, we can go past that, what you're saying in terms of locations, to then a feed that goes off-site and is given to someone to do a rough cut, to then hand it back to some other guys to do some graphics for it. It sounds like there were also a few challenges there as well. And real quick, I guess this is kind of a perfect time to do it. I had reached out to Steve before the show tonight. He's really good at of being a great guest.
Well, let me say this, and God, it was I think it was Nate and Val. We are about to go live. I think it was like 2:40 or something, exactly when, or 3:40 our time. I'm literally about to hit the live button. I think 2 out of the 4 days, my phone rings and it's Steve Dodge trying to talk to me, and all I keep thinking is like, dude, you know what? Like, you know we're going live. Why are you calling me? So Steve has a knack of calling at like the worst times.
All right. So I reached out to Steve. I asked if he was interested in me on the show. Of course, we could address some of the concerns or conversations that took place throughout the weekend. And let me be very clear. I reached out to him very late in the day.
That's one thing Terry's good at.
As a idea. I said, would you want to be on to recap the session? So I don't know if he purposely worded this almost in a press release format or not. I know this was probably talk to text while he was driving. He says he's got 5 more hours of driving and he doesn't think he'd be a good guest tonight. He's never said that before.
Nothing stopped him before. You wouldn't be the first person we've had while driving either.
And so I hope he doesn't mind. I assume he doesn't mind me either reading this verbatim or paraphrasing. I will say I'm really proud of the way our team bounced back from the first day of live coverage, which was pretty much as bad as it could have gone. We've kind of beat that to death. We also experienced unanticipated bottlenecks in our editing process, and we're only able to get out MPO and FPO1, MPO1 and FPO1. We are spending this week improving the process so that we can put out a better edited product at Waco and the rest of the season moving forward. A huge shout out and thanks to everybody that tuned in to watch, as well as everyone who gave us constructive criticism and new ideas to implement. I don't think there's any shortage of those.
Oh, there's a lot of new ideas.
And then he said it was great to see me again. It was great to do and to work with Johnny again. For the workload we asked him to do with the little to no prep time, he knocked it out of the park. So that's what Steve had said again. I don't know if that was like a formal press release posting, but that's what he had shared with me.
He's not the PR guy anymore.
I wanted to share that with everyone. I was excited to get a little upfront and detailed with him tonight. But like I said, I had reached out to him late, and I know he's literally driving from Phoenix out to Waco in a big truck. So not that being in a truck has ever stopped him from being on a live podcast either.
Yeah. So real quick, we can talk about a few other things. The cameramen. In the interview that Dodge did with Corey, he said that these were relatively green cameramen. They were newer. Some of them didn't know disc golf. And I believe he said 4 of the 6 he's fairly certain 4 of the 6 are going to be regulars, we'll say. And so I don't know nothing about that. I did my best to help direct the cameramen as to what they need to do. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, as we saw. And everybody tends to know following a disc is not always the easiest thing in the world because there are so many unique things. And let me just add, having Simon and Eagle on a card is just not fair for some people because the position you need to be in as a cameraman is different for Simon and Eagle than it is for Yale and Sias.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's difficult. And that just goes to show you how good some of our post-production guys are that can make those adjustments. these guys will get better. They missed a lot of things. And I'm sure they're going through and they're going to look at it, as I have told them as well. I said, this is what you need to do. You need to try to do more of this. And they will be able to follow a disc better. They will be able to, when a putt happens and they miss, not to stay on the basket and actually maybe show where the disc goes. These are things that they will get better at. So the constructive and non-constructive criticism that they're getting for some of that, I call that a learning curve. Now, there were some things that I felt in the post-production were rushed, not done well, and I hope they improve, as Steve says, like having the audio out of sync we saw. That was, that's a rookie mistake that I didn't expect, to be honest. There were things I didn't expect to see on the post-production coverage, and I haven't watched a lot of it because I watched it all live, so the last thing I want to do is go watch it again. Trust me. But I felt it was my job to check some things. Some of the angles that were picked, because the way the post-production works, whoever's cutting that together, they have access to all the cameras, just like I do. And I pick different shots, he can pick different shots. So when I make a cut, doesn't necessarily mean when he has to make a cut. He can choose his own cuts. He's just putting it together separate from me. We're getting a copy. It's like he gets one, I get one. So what I do doesn't affect him. Some of the choices in edits were a little iffy, I thought. And I hope they clean that up as well. I'm sure they'll go through it and say, "Oh, you want this instead of this." So I that was one of the things I wasn't expecting. And I'll say there were a lot of mistakes in the graphics from what I saw. More I can forgive, and I can forgive all of them, but like when you misspell championship and miss an I, things like that happen. You render out a bunch of them. You're not even, you check everything, but you miss it. I get that. But we saw names, scores wrong, and things like that. And I bet you a lot of that has to do with the bottleneck that they were talking about. Like, similar to when everything was going poorly Thursday morning, you start to panic and you just start to do things. And I'm sure when you're on a time crunch and you're trying to hit a specific time, the work becomes very heavy and probably feels very slow. So I'm really hoping that, like what Steve said, is that they can look at where the bottlenecks are and improve that. The thing that I am not confident about is that we're going to see a huge improvement in the quality of the coverage, the crispness that we're used to seeing with Jomez and CCDG because of the use of an offsite editor. And everything is pushed through a cell signal. So if your biggest most problem is that it's not as clean, it's not like a true 1080p 60 of vibrant color, if that's your biggest complaint, I think you're going to have that complaint for a while. But I personally think that if they can get through and get a lot of the other stuff cleaned up, and that is their biggest problem by the end of hopefully maybe Waco or Jonesboro, which I think is after Waco, to me, that's good enough. I said that I would like to see them at about 80% capacity of what Jomez is.
Yeah,
and I think that would do it.
I will say, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges and criticisms, or maybe valid criticisms. I think Steve, whether it was here on the show or it would maybe, I think it was more in the media plan, had stated that things are going to be as good right off the bat, and that immediately set a bar because a bar has been set.
I'll say this: I don't think he said as good. I believe it was meet expectations.
I'm pretty sure he
maybe
said there wasn't going to be any step back, or something that referenced a step back.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying that. Trust me.
And this weekend,
yeah.
From,
either way, it wasn't
from
hit.
what we left, and whether it's the Pro Tour finale or MVP, the weekend, the event before it, whatever it was, there was definitely some steps back. and he had claimed and stated he did not see or plan on any kind of step back. And unfortunately, that's where he left things with us and with a lot of other people. And so when people demanded or are requesting that it's as good as where it was left off last year, and then he stated that it would be, they want to hold his feet to that fire, hold his feet to that fire.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And it flat out did not meet those expectations. I think that's going to be a challenge because to piggyback on what you just said, you're not going to see as good a picture quality out of post-production as what we're currently seeing out of Jomez from a pure, like you said, crispness or just video quality. They film, they take the cards out, and then they edit from the cards on there. Anytime you're going through our cellular signals of any kind,
you're compressing it.
You're significantly compressing it right off the bat. Then they're working with that compressed footage, and then there may or may not be more compression when you see it again. It's I don't know if those are physics or just technology. What do you want to call
technology.
it? It's just technology.
Let's put it this way. When you record in your camera directly to the cards, it's probably at about 50 meg per second. So we'll put numbers out here. The compressed coverage is at about 8 meg per second based on different codecs and things like that. I mean, there's always whatever, but as a rough estimate. So you're losing X amount percentage of the detail immediately. So, when the trees behind the player are a little blurry because they're moving so fast and the wind is blowing, that is why. It's the lower your bit rate, the less quality you're going to see. And that's just physics, I think technically is what it is. But here is a shining star at the end of a very, very, very long tunnel. Technology will fix that in the future. We've said it for a while. When 5G rolls out and you can push that type of stream without having to worry about 4 cell signals, that's great. At that point, it will look as good as Jomez. It will look as good as CCDG. Because you're going to be able to push out at 20, 30, 50 meg per second. But that could be years away. That could be 2 years. That could be 4 years. It all depends on where you are. For those of you that are old enough, look how slow 4G rolled out. I think it was in Chicago for like 3 years before it came to Milwaukee. Technology takes a while. I have what I would love to see the Pro Tour do, but it costs money. Hiring on-site editors that have to now travel. The advantage of what the Pro Tour is doing is everything is pushed to one location, and that person does nothing but edit for like 8 hours a day for 4 straight days. And that's great because it just comes and it puts it in, they go, and they comes in and out. And then they upload it and send it to the crews that do all the other things, the graphics, like Steve said, there's that whole workflow. I don't know the next step. I would love to see, personally, the lead cards come straight from the footage, straight from the camera. I think that would be, and then if you had the second card coverage look at the reduced quality, I think that would be acceptable to a majority of the people. But I don't know if I don't think that's what Steve is going to do. I don't see that as being a change because that requires people on site editing, on the spot, swapping, like running cards back and forth in order to keep up with the workflow. And that's manpower and money and time.
Well,
I'm not sure. I honestly
think
don't know where to go from
all
here.
All that gets summarized or possibly addressed in just managing expectations. And I know that might be a simple theme that's out there. I think Steve and the media plan and policies really painted themselves into an aggressive and also a very admirable is not the word, an aggressive and I don't know, far-reaching. I mean, it was maybe obtainable, but it was very aggressive from the get-go. And with that, I think that's part of what really struck up a lot of the criticism, additional criticism or complaints this weekend is, to use the phrase he overpromised and underdelivered. And unfortunately, that I think I'm going to say, I feel like that happened on a number of fronts.
Yeah.
Not just one specific area, but on a number of the media fronts. Whereas we all know, if that bar was maybe not claimed so high so early, it would have been easier to fulfill or silence some of the clamors. I mean, how great would it have been if everyone, really did, so to speak, have a relatively low expectation, and then things were blown out of the water this weekend? Of course, we would all be having a different conversation, and the sentiment across the disc golf community would be very different right now, but that's not where we're at. So here's what I'll go ahead and say. I do want to, I don't know if it's the 10th or the first time I'm saying it, but the whole world should know, Jomez and Central Coast and all other post producers are absolutely welcome at the tournaments. Please, for the love of God, effing quote me and put it on your Facebook wall. Jomez and Central Coast were not
kicked off.
They were not banned. They were not abolished. They were not hidden from. They are allowed to be there under new Pro Tour media policies. They are absolutely choosing, which I'm also totally fine with. They are choosing from business or personal reasons to not attend and to not fulfill roles or responsibilities that they could set forth. But it is 100% on their own volition, one way or another, just like myself this weekend.
Yep, you were there in film.
I was there. I was able to film. I fit the various media policies and guidelines that were in place that allotted and allowed me certain things and restricted me on other things. I, so to speak, played by the rules that were set forth. Jomez and Central Coast are absolutely allowed to be there. The terms and conditions are different than previous years, but they are allowed to be there. I can't effing say that enough. I think that's the number one thing
misconception
and misconceptions. They were kicked off. They're not allowed to be there.
Alan Amos on our board says, why should they work with the Disc Golf Pro Tour considering their product?
That's fine.
That's a valid. That's a completely valid question.
That's great.
If they choose not to, like Terry said, for business or personal reasons, if Jomez can go do a Jomez Final 9 that they do and make X times more money, that's great. And I commend them. In fact, I want Jomez to make as much money as humanly possible, because the more money they make, the more disc golf they're going to put out. And that's awesome. If they feel that covering that is going to earn them more money than covering a third card, please, by all means, do that. If they just don't want to cover a third card and would rather go hang out at a Burger King for a weekend, I don't care.
That's option 2.
That's option 2.
Film Pro Tour event
or go
hang out at Burger King. Yes.
There's a new Burger King being built across the street.
Those are rarely put up anywhere ever, but that's another story.
That's a whole nother story. After show story. I was so disappointed.
So anyway, that's the point.
But they can. And it is, trust me, Steve Dodge would love to have them there.
And if they choose not to be there for one of a million reasons, I fully support that.
Yep.
And if they choose to be there for one or a million reasons, I fully support that. But they have a choice, and you can argue all day long whether it's good or bad conditions and guidelines. That's not my point. The point is they have a choice. They are allowed. They just simply have to abide by the guidelines, just like the PDGA has a stricter set of guidelines for coverage at certain events now. The Pro Tour has a stricter set of guidelines. So I would love to see them there. I don't think they're going to be at most of them, and I support that fully. If they show up at the rest of them, I support that fully. But for the love of God, people, they were not kicked off. They are not banned. They are allowed to be there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So please post it on Facebook. Quote me if you want.
Yeah.
But
I've said
they are allowed.
Trust me,
to be.
I've said that to numerous people.
Well,
that's a choice, and the choice is not right or wrong. It's just a choice.
All right. So And if Dylan asks because rents the parks, they can limit what is filmed. I'll here this, and I can speak to this personally. If you don't like the agreement, you don't like the case or the scenario or the situation in which it has been set up by an event, I'll use the USDGC, who has enacted certain media policies of years past, and I didn't feel like it was a good fit for me to be there. You could look into the legalities of what kind of park is it in? Could I go film? Could you do this? Could you do that? Do you really? I mean, our disc golf community is so tiny. Do you really want to show up and be that prick, so to speak, or that group that says, well, we're really bucking the system and we're relying on, U.S. Constitution 0049, I don't know, make up some numbers and ordinances, so therefore we can stand here and we can film damn it if we want to.
And that's great, but here's the other thing
what bridge do you want to burn and for how long?
It's a burned bridge, but on top of that, if you want to be behind the ropes, so to speak, you need a pass. And sure,
inside the ropes.
Inside the ropes. And if anybody wants to film from the crowd, feel free and let me know how well that looks for you. And it's just the way it is. So for all the people that are like, it's a free country.
I get it. I understand the argument. It's a lot. Some of these are in public parks and you could go film and so on and so forth. You know what? If Shaq's putting on a 3-on-3 basketball tournament in a public park, sure, I could probably show up and film it. Like Johnny just said, I might have to be 100 feet back because of the crowds or because of the hoopla of what's going on. And if I get any closer than that, there might be certain media restrictions that are then enacted at that point. And what am I going to do? Crawl on a ladder and then try and film it, from 150 feet away? Like, it's just...
What if... Happy birthday to him. What if Jerry sat on Jonathan's shoulders? Jerry's kind of a small guy.
Jonathan's tall. So
that would work out.
And happy birthday to Jerry.
And then
yesterday.
they just wear one trench coat.
Anyway, so that's kind of a side rant because that has been talked about for many years in the past. I've talked about it. I think I've had it on the show where you say, well, you don't want to abide by the policy. And I just think there's only a few of, okay, so great. You can pull that off at one event. Then you go to MVP where it's not public. How do you think your relationship is going to go when you want to show up to the MVP event and you just got done kind of being a jerk at a previous event? It's not worth it at that point. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Was there anything else media related for the Pro Tour that we needed to talk about?
You'll see some of my footage at some point. Which again, there was a misunderstanding, and maybe it's in how it was conveyed. I was there on my own dime. I was there on my own volition. Somebody said, multiple people had said, what? You can't put that out for a week? That is absolutely incorrect. There are a number of people that have said that and said, I heard the Pro Tour won't let any other cards get released for a week. That is not true. It is up to the individual content producer for when they're going to get stuff out. So me personally, I went out and filmed 3 or 4 really great cards on my own time. I will get those put together. I will hire Eagle for commentary, and we'll get those out. But those are on my own time, on my own dime. Those are all my own, timelines. So just so everyone knows, but it's not true that I had to wait a week. Steve would have loved for me to get him out the next day. He would have absolutely welcomed that. I just wasn't in a position to do so. So I don't have anything else media related. Best of luck. Someone asked us to speculate on Waco because Johnny V won't be involved.
I'm on a boat.
I think it's going to be tough. I think they have the Pro Tour has a huge hurdle in front of them with having for sure a new show switcher. This will be the first different person to switch the show in 4 years. There may or may not be some or a lot of new cameramen. You're on a more wooded course, which some would say, well, it's easier to film because your lines are tighter. Yeah, until they hit a tree, and then it hits another tree, and then it hits another tree, and a newer cameraman's trying to follow that.
But I'm kind of under the thing where I think it's easier in the woods.
You do have a smaller window.
You have a smaller window. You don't have to worry about usually Simon taking the crazy route. If it hits a tree and goes off in the woods, odds are nobody's going to find that. Nobody usually sees that. You just kind of pan over to the woods and you think, I think I got it.
And then on top of it, there are a few places at Waco where cell signal has challenged us. That may or may not happen.
17 through 5.
Yeah, that may or may not happen with some of the newer equipment they're using. It still may. I know that equipment hasn't been there to be tested, so it'll be interesting to see that as well. So for all of those things, I'm going to go ahead and say I think there's some legitimate challenges facing Steve and the Pro Tour
and
for Waco.
I've said this I think I said this to Gary, that there is a chance that whomever Steve gets to be the TD, the switcher, whatever you want to call my position, there's a chance that they're better than I am.
Oh, there's not a chance. I mean,
Terry Miller.
Well, okay, there's definitely a chance.
There's a chance that they're better at something. Maybe they're
Did you
better
say chance or guarantee?
Chance.
Chance, okay.
Chance. Not community chest. Chance. Maybe they're better than me at communicating with cameras. Maybe they're better than me at working with their whatever switching program they're using.
Maybe they're better looking.
Maybe they're probably better looking, and they're probably younger, and they probably have
Maybe.
who knows. But there's a chance of there's a good chance of that. I don't know if any of that matters. We will all literally have to wait to find out, and I'm curious to see it, because maybe I will learn something. Because I'll tell you what, when I come back from my vacation, I'm not watching the post-produce stuff. I'll watch the live stuff, because I want to know, oh, that's a really great idea that they did it this way. Maybe they come up with an idea that I've never thought of and thought, oh, maybe that's a great way to fill time, or let's do this, or let's do that. Or maybe they do a really basic stream without a lot of graphics and not a lot of more booth or less booth or what. Like this weekend, I taught Gary basically how to use the vMix program a little bit, just enough to cut that second card so he could feed it into my system. I don't know if another person's going to have a secondary set of hands like I do, because there's no way. There is 0% chance that our broadcast would have been nearly as good if it weren't for Gary sitting here next to me, just watching that second card and chopping it up and feeding it to me so that I could put it into the broadcast. I hope, I truly hope that that whoever does it can either do that without a Gary, or that they have their own Gary.
Well, we shall see. And if to quote the famous Hannah Macbeth, if you want my hot take, which I was reserved about, but now I'll share it. I think with the challenges that are ahead for Waco, I wouldn't be opposed to the Disc Golf Pro Tour skipping live for this event.
Really?
I
mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I find that
that's nothing more than just a bystander's input.
I would be disappointed.
I am not I'm not involved with the broadcast.
Nor am
I. I wonder if that would be the best move.
No, that's a debate. And
maybe that's the way I should have worded it. I wonder if the best move for the Waco event this year, for a lot of the reasons I just mentioned, if that would be the best bet or not. And I don't know the potential show switcher, and I don't know the cameraman, and clearly that all factors in. Just a thought.
I'll say this because I know,
and I don't think that'll happen. By the way, let me go on record. I don't think Steve's going to do that.
Good.
It was just 100% made up in my own head, but that thought crossed my mind today. So we'll see.
Yeah, and let me just say about the cameramen that I worked with, they got better. I mean, yes, they missed shots, and yes, they didn't follow all the time on round 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, but they got better from when they stepped on that course for that first round to when we stepped off that course at round 4. They were better. They had a better understanding of the game. They had a better understanding of the shots. I think there is potential there. I hope they get a chance to.
I wish
continue.
I wish that the first event wasn't the learning and proving ground this year. That's what I wish.
Yeah.
I understand we had our challenges. We'll still have our challenges. But again, that goes back to the whole where the bar was set and how he wanted to maintain or improve on it. I feel like that was not done, and therefore there was a step backwards. There was a regression, and I wish that that first event wouldn't have been the proving ground for some of these people to get dialed in as much as they might have been by the end of the weekend. It's unfortunate that it's unfortunate that we have to say, as Steve even admitted, that by the end of the weekend we had it, and that's just unfortunate that had to happen, as opposed to coming out of the gate swinging.
I think part of that, and let me be clear, as I've said before, I'm in no way affiliated with the Pro Tour at this point. I've not agreed to do any more broadcasts as of right now. I don't know my plans. So I'm not privy to anything. But I would have loved to see them practice more at like an event the week before. The problem is probably money. Like, people aren't coming out for free to do that. So now you have to, you're doubling your costs for one event for your cameraman. And the question is, would that have been worth it? In everybody that's listening to this and everybody that's quoted, everybody that saw, I don't know what the cameramen were paid, I don't know any of that, everyone's going to say yes, it would be worth it. Everybody, because of how they've perceived the coverage. I can't answer that. I think the only person that can answer that is Steve Dodge, and I don't think he will. I don't think he needs to, but it would have been nice.
Yeah, it sounds like it would have helped.
All right, definitely would have helped. Every event would help for any player. Anyone gets better. Even I'm a mediocre cameraman at best.
All right. Well, on that note, that's a good way to close things out. We're gonna head into the after show. We can talk a little bit more about other things going on. Ben Askren, obviously a huge part of the news the news cycle within sporting events, whether you're UFC or otherwise. I'll give the very, very 2-second abbreviated version of what I know, what I saw regarding that. But Ben Askren, the MMA UFC fighter this weekend and disc golfer, we'll talk about him and some other stuff. But
real quick, Alan Hamos, I think you keep calling me Jay, and my name is John, just so you know. But everyone calls me JV as an initials, the letter J, the letter V, just so you know. I think he keeps referring to me as Jay.
That's nicer than I would. So
that's the best nickname I've gotten in a while. That's for
exactly.
sure.
All right, guys, we're gonna call it. I want to thank Eagle for joining us. It's been kind of a long show already, so we'll have you guys in the after show. But thank you to Dana. Thank you to Eagle. Thank you to Steve Dodge for his unofficial message that I was glad to relay. And happy to do so as we wrapped up this first event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, stick around for the after show. We've got some free giveaway action for our Patreon supporters. We'll talk about things disc golf and non-disc golf related. And we'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV podcast 237.
After show.
I was busy questioning what
It was 237.
All right, we'll say it's 237. It's the after show. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, along with Johnny V. And wow, if you're joining us now, it is after a relatively long iteration of our podcast.
It's been a hot minute since we've had a podcast like this.
Yes, we are here. We talked with Eagle McMahon. Got a lot of great information out of him with regard to the last couple of weeks. We almost got a 2-for-1 special. He performed very well at Las Vegas, which was great to hear and see. And then obviously going on to win the Disc Golf Pro Tour event the next weekend. So catching up with him on both of those accounts and just talking about the overall beginning of the season, which I think is great for us to be able to compare this year versus last year. He started out very hot last year.
Here's my prediction for Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he starts out as hot this year as he did last year. I think
His second and his first, okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah.
He continued last year. I think he's going to slow down just a little bit, not bad, but I think he picks it up more towards the middle to end of the season again, like that he didn't do last year. That's my guess.
Okay.
I think he's going to try to get ramped up and try to hit that peak for Worlds this time.
Well, and it will be interesting. I think he's been relatively vocal with the idea that he hasn't necessarily loved playing in Peoria.
He doesn't love Green Mountain either, though. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know what he's looking at, but yeah, he hasn't necessarily loved playing in Peoria. But that, of course, this year the World Championships taking place there. There's currently renovations going on out at the Northwood Park, and the MPO side is looking at playing the Eureka course that we've seen for the Ledgestone event the last few years, as well as the newly redesigned and reworked Northwood course. So we'll see a little bit different styles of courses in terms of tight and wooded or at least obstructed as opposed to what we see out at Lake Eureka. And be interested to see how that goes for him, as well as him talking about last year where, he really kind of took a month off and relaxed, healed, recuperated, whatever you want to call it. And now in hindsight, he's wondering if that possibly adversely affected him during the year. So we'll see what his plan is this year. Dylan Schultz, along with there's been a dozen other super chats of varying levels throughout
everybody.
Throughout the regular show and just now. So Dylan Schultz, Ace Run Productions.
We saw Derek Monteverdi earlier. Ace Run, of course. Precision Disc Golf. Big Putt Bill
Sherman, Titan Disc Golf.
And, of course, we talked about Disc Baron, as always.
So thank you guys.
Ace Run again. Come on. I'm starting to feel guilty.
What are you doing? Thank you. We appreciate that. So here we are, after show. As always, we take quite a few questions and comments from the board directly on the YouTube chat board. Unfortunately, we ignore the Facebook chat board, even though people are watching it there. But if you have something for us, please make sure to chime in on the YouTube chat board, and to the best of our abilities, hopefully we can address it. I'm just right away reading right down the line. I see Christy Moore is out there out of Ohio. Christy says she's talking about media teams and whatnot. I know there was a lot of conversation. We closed out the regular show talking a lot about the Disc Golf Pro Tour media. I think there's some challenges in place, and I also think there were a few legitimate wins there this weekend, and we'll see how it moves into Waco. Austin Turner, done for the season, worth a mention.
Oh, is he officially done for the season?
I know he made a post. I know there was a talk about some kind of a surgery. Kinga. Oh, you and your Australian money, that's not worth the $10. I'm just kidding. Your $10 is probably worth about $8.20 if I had to guess, and
I'll still
every
take it.
penny of it we appreciate. But Kinga coming in from Australia, make sure you guys check him out. He did a lot of all of the Ultra World stuff that you saw in Thailand, and one of the most talented artists. I'm gonna go ahead and say it since you weren't on the list. Kinga might be the smartest man I've ever met.
I think you did tell me that, actually.
Yeah. That you're not on the list even? That King Harris tops.
That he's tops.
Either way, it's just
Trust
seriously.
me, neither of us make that list, Harry. I am not offended by that.
But yes, Austin Turner, I know, has gone through. He withdrew from the. Did he? He also had withdrawn or didn't make the cut. At least I think he withdrew from Vegas, and then we didn't see him.
Yeah, he withdrew from Vegas, and then
we
didn't
never saw
play.
him at the Memorial. So that's too bad. He's got a lot of problems physically. It seems like it's just they've really plagued him, which is too bad.
I think he was an athlete through high school. I got to assume that maybe something catching up with him.
Maybe it's all those tattoos. All those muscle cars and tattoos. Somehow they've caught up with him.
My wife just got a brand new tattoo today.
Wow.
Yesterday. Sorry,
wow.
yesterday.
Celebrate that pro tour kickoff, huh?
Yes, that's
cute. She got the pro tour logo again. Had to scratch out the 3 and put the 4 in it for the 4th year.
You know,
that's adorable.
What's really sad is the other side, that the poor World Tour logo that just gets
the
no
World
love.
Tour. Yeah. Speaking of which, let's quickly sidestep.
Wow, spit it out.
There it is. I was trying to think of the right one. Sidestep. Hannah McBeth today.
She said she missed the World Tour.
She missed the World Tour. She misses the World Tour.
I think maybe.
I want her to dig deeper. I want to know what that means.
I'm going to speculate that she had posted earlier on Twitter about a cameraman for the Pro Tour, like walking away from Paul on 5
yeah,
when he'd yet to putt. And I don't know the situation, if there was another cameraman or if just he was in Paul's way or what the deal was. But I'm wondering if it's a little
did she think the World Tour's media was that much further superior? Was that her underlying message?
I don't think that was her underlying message.
Okay.
I just think she missed the World Tour. Maybe she misses traveling. I don't know.
Maybe she wishes she misses the non-inclusion of women.
I don't want to get on her. I don't want to get on her bad side, because she did post it, I think today also, that she doesn't like how the Upshot all of their speculation. So I'm not going to speculate about Hannah McBeth.
Ooh.
I don't want to get on her bad
What's
side.
the Upshot speculating about?
I don't know. She just said she doesn't like it. All the speculation.
Well, don't you listen to those people? I don't.
I do, but I don't necessarily know what she was referencing.
Okay. So I am curious to know exactly, and I tweeted back at her, wondering exactly what it was that she misses, and maybe next week we'll have an update.
For those of you that are listening to the Smashbox Unsanctioned podcast, you will know that Hannah McBeth has just made it through her worst month of the year, February. That's what the prediction said, that February is going to be her worst month. So shout out to her. And for those of you that are enjoying it, Madison Walker's released yesterday, and it was one of my favorites to do. Madison she gets it. It was fun. Not that any of my guests haven't, but she really plays into it, and it's a great conversation with Madison. So you get to listen to that, and if you're a Patreon supporter, you get that extra little bump. I need to find somebody. I might reach out to you, Disc Golf Nerd. I need to find somebody else for this upcoming Monday, because
it sounds like I've painted yourself in that corner.
Well, yeah, he reached out to me and said, hey, he'd be interested, and I'd be interested. So I just have to finish making Boy Scout Derby cars this week, because I'm gone this weekend, and that's when the little race is, and I just started it tonight, so I'm just behind the ball.
I'm gonna try and catch up quickly. I apologize. So someone had said that they had picked Eagle for doing well. Okay, Eagle's my pick for Waco. He commented on Big Germ's buttery sidearms. Eagle's got a buttery sidearm. Austin Turner is one of my favorites. What a bummer. That is true. Just rub some dirt on it. Country Disc Golf asked, in filming live, is it possible to record the cards while broadcasting live?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. And what he's kind of referencing as we closed out the regular show is just the fact that I was saying you're sacrificing some quality when you're taking the live stream and the compression that's happening there, and they're trying to have it edited off-site so that it can then make the post-production video, you're immediately losing a lot of your quality by having it go through the stream. And Johnny had said if there was an on-site editor that could then physically take the cards right out of the cameras, they could actually edit from those. There's still some logistical challenges, but yeah, that certainly could happen. Makers said, Terry said, Calvin was smart. I certainly did, because he is pretty smart. And that Austin will be rehabbing for 8 months.
Ouch.
Christy says, I do support media teams via Patreon, but I don't think that gives me any more right to complain than any other golfer out there.
Well, the question originally was, who really has the right to complain about the Pro Tour media? Someone said, everybody's getting it for free other than the Patreon supporters of the Pro Tour. And I chimed in, as well as, the sponsors. I think the sponsors would have, if they were unhappy with the quality, would have a right to complain as well. That's one way to look at it, in that, hey, we're getting this for free, so what right do you have to complain? Kind of. But as we all said, Steve missed his mark of the expectations that he himself had set, and he'll freely admit, I think, that he missed them.
Johnny V, do you know anything about the generator at the Pro Tour and if it was needed because of a lack of batteries being ordered?
I believe that is the case. So the batteries were ordered, and I think they were delayed a day or so. They were supposed to get there earlier, so they ended up not getting there until the first day of the event. The extra batteries. So it wasn't the camera batteries; it's the transmitter, the live view batteries that they were having issues with. And so so there was a generator that somebody was standing next to. I think Robert McCall took a picture of it or something, and I don't know if he posted or just sent it to someone where I saw it, that there was a generator out there and they had plugged into it to keep their stuff up and running. And then in between rounds they were able to charge. And if you notice, on that first day, like that FPO, everything went wrong. They ran out of batteries for hole 18. The live views just shut down because they were out of batteries for that very first round. And like I said, the batteries came in. After that, everything was golden. Like, I never once had to worry about someone running out of batteries because they had extra spares. Because they had a spare. Everybody had a spare, but you need 2 spares. So it's just the way it works. So it was a little detail that was overlooked, or just not necessarily overlooked, but just maybe was a little late.
We'll go with that. It would have been better had Robert or whoever took the picture said, well, that's one way for the Disc Golf Pro Tour to generate views.
I see.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and to think I didn't have a mic this weekend, I tell you. Okay.
No, everybody's glad about that. I've looked on the internet.
Yeah,
and
that's what they all said.
People are so glad that you were
said,
not.
I'm so glad. Delayed mail was the reason for the bed sheet. Yeah, that was talked about as well. UPS and a snowstorm and all that stuff. I understand that. It's a valid argument to say, yes, but that could have been shipped days earlier.
Even earlier.
To plan for it to arrive on Tuesday, or I'm sorry, to plan for it to arrive on Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, honestly. I don't know how many days it was delayed.
Possibly a day. And I'm the first to say I'm always late as they get, and I'm a last minute guy and all that. I get it. So I would put myself on blast for just that. However, yeah, that it got delayed a day. It shouldn't have been that close in the first place. That's a fair statement.
Disc Golf Nerd says, why on earth did the PDGA make a new commercial and not immediately destroy all copies of the For Me commercial? That's on me.
You played it?
On purpose.
There you go.
Gary had the funny idea. Gary's like, we should play the old commercial right before the new commercial.
Wow.
And so Steve had heard that, and Steve's like, let's do it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That's fine. Ultimately, I had the final decision. I could have not played it.
Well,
technically, Steve has the final decision. Let me say that. But Steve was on board, so I played it. because it's also a 30-second commercial, so it adds a little bit extra. The new one's only 15 seconds, so sometimes you just need a little bit of extra filler. But once in a while, I like to. And the best part about it is because it was a last-minute decision, I have all these shots set up. I pulled the commercial into one of the lists that was supposed to originally be for highlights that Gary sent me. The highlights are commented over by Nate and Val. Guess what I didn't do? Take Nate and Val's commentary off. So when the For Me commercial came up, everybody could hear Nate and Val for the first day. So you heard Nate saying, like, for me, it's, and I forget what he said. It was nothing inappropriate, but we caught a little hot mic action there. And then the other hot mic action we had was the final day replay, where I play all of the replays. I forgot to take his audio off of that, and he had said something along the lines of, he's like, wow, that's not exactly how I saw this going down. With the Eagle win. He knew, I think the Eagle win wasn't surprising, but the way Simon had played and the way some of the other people had played, I think is what him and I were talking about. Because it was one way. You could hear him, and I was talking to him, but you couldn't hear me because my mic is never live for any reason during the broadcast, whereas if his goes on and off. So we had two hot mic incidents, neither of which clearly were bad.
Well, that's too bad. That would have been better if they were.
I know.
All right, I'm going to read down a few more of the comments here listed. Disc Golf Nerd says, hot take, pick segments on podcasts. Oh, picks segments on podcasts are really meaningless.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
everybody does it.
Except us.
Yeah.
I don't.
I
don't partake.
We don't really do it anymore. I mean, we could have.
Yeah, I guess we kind of used to.
We used to have Yuli's picks, but we just.
Oh, that's right.
We stopped because Yuli wasn't, at that time, wasn't always available for us. And unlike he seems to be now, whenever we call him up, he's just like, hey, guys, I'll jump on. But you know, yeah. I mean, I picked Calvin to win the Memorial, and that didn't happen. So I take a loss on that one.
Darren says, does she, meaning Hannah McBath, only have a platform because of Paul? I don't think so. I think her platform is widened and greatened, of course, because she's married to him. But I think she is truly witty and insightful.
She's very funny.
And very funny on her own as well. I just think...
and apparently very talented at editing.
Yeah, and we talked about her vlogs briefly. She was upset because I told her I didn't watch them.
I watched almost all of them.
I haven't watched all of them. And,
I haven't watched all of them. I think there was a new one that just came out a couple days ago that I didn't watch.
Yeah, she's getting it
She's
done.
very good at it, which is
Christy says she can see my hair in HD. Thank you.
Maybe I need to lower the bit rate for Terry's hair.
How many FPO players that don't win or place for that matter are mentioned besides none? Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean that don't win or place for that. I talked about Lisa Fakis earlier. I don't know if you were around for that, but certainly talked about her. What platform did Austin announce? I'm guessing Instagram and maybe then Facebook, possibly. Oh, the last feed was blurry the entire time, and the camera work was a debacle. Thank God for Nate and Val is all I can say. Zeppy is chiming in. We've kind of beat all of that to death. The signal shouldn't have been blurry the entire time. That one I would challenge you on a little. Maybe that was here's a click or a link for yourself in terms of the gear.
I mean, here's what I'll say. If you go right now and watch the live feed, is it better or worse than what you watched it at live? Because nothing has changed. So if it looks better now, then it was just you at the time. If it looks the same and it's blurry, then that's just the way it is. I mean, it's I will say that there was an issue with FPO in the morning because Johnny had a really great idea.
I bet.
That I was like, oh, hey, get this. I will have a second streamer, which I used our Terra deck as a second streamer and use that as a backup, and I'll have a primary stream coming out of my computer. Well, what ended up happening is YouTube, for whatever reason, would pick, I don't know if one of them maybe dipped a little bit, if it flipped over. So it would flip over to the backup stream, I found out, and they weren't in sync. So it would either jump back like 5 seconds or forward 5 seconds. And so it happened off and on. And when I found out about it, a third or 2/3 of the way through the the FPO round, I turned it off. I turned the backup streamer off. And then I didn't turn it on for MPO because people were calling it like a time warp. It would suddenly flip over. Because here I am trying to add redundancy so that people don't buffer, and I ended up making it worse. Just like when I tried to plug more modems in, that didn't work very well either because the T-Mobile modems that I had were not very good signal, and so I think that was causing, on day 2, that was causing like an issue, so I just pulled the plug on that. It was causing actually more problems with the stream, but it was...
Zappy, yeah, if you're
things.
watching it in 360p, it was something on your end.
Yeah, if the gear literally said 360p, then it was on your end. But because the gear should have said 1080, whether it looked 1080, that I'm not even...
Yeah, that could be debated, but it should not have been at 360. I think this was asked earlier. Does Lisa Fakis have a signature win? I know she's on Innova Star or Team Star. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could go to the PDGA. PDGA.com and
Didn't
check.
she win an event up in Canada?
Potentially, and she's. I'm going to say some A tiers.
I don't believe she has a Pro Tour win, and she does not have an NT win. So define signature in that aspect.
Yeah. So as I take a look, as she's now up to 943, she won a B tier earlier this year. I'm going to take a quick look at 2018 and her finishes. Yeah, she won the A tier St. Patrick's Classic. She won the Daniel Bowe A tier. She won the Christie Lake Spring Fling A tier and the Titan Open A tier, along with the Dynamic Disc Rose City Club Piney Woods A tier.
Oh, she won Piney Woods. That's right.
Piney Woods late in October last year, and that was for $1,000. Lisa pulled in $15,000 last year, cashing at every single event except for Jonesboro. So, and that's out of...
She already broke that streak this year.
Yeah, so it looks like she played in 31 events last year, cashing in 30 of them. And, yeah, very impressive. So, I guess, like you just said, Johnny, what's considered a signature win?
Most people define a signature win as an NT, a Pro Tour, or a major, of which she does not have one yet. She finished, obviously, very well at Worlds 2 years ago, which is where I think one of those breakout performances where everyone saw her in her amazing putting.
Yep.
But ultimately, she's still looking for that huge win. She's got a bunch of good wins. She's looking for that huge win.
All right. Do you guys have any plans to attend the Bevel Grand Opening? That is not in the cards at the moment.
April 8th?
April 6th, I think.
6th? Okay.
That I don't believe is in the cards. Timothy Barnes says, I checked the settings and it was 1080-60 and still didn't look right. So here's what I'm going to say, because I know there was some conversation about this. And I know Steve Dodge helped lead the conversation because it was in the media plan. Again, maybe my analogies haven't been spot on tonight, but
they usually aren't.
Steve said he's giving you or can give you 1080-60. Not all 1080-60 is the same.
It looks the same. It's all about the bit rate, as we talked about earlier.
So my analogy is you have a 4-cylinder car and I have a 4-cylinder car. Doesn't mean they accelerate the same. That doesn't mean they move the same. There's a lot of things they don't do the same. Although they might be both 4 cylinders, they're not going to be identical.
It's a good analogy.
Not all 1080-60s are the same. You would think they would be, or they should be close, or they could be. That's, again, another place where I wish he wouldn't have attached such a stout promise to. Like, that's just me personally. I think it's something to strive for. I think it's something, maybe a goal, and it's something you hit and then you recognize and you celebrate. It's also a considerable step from where we've been. And I wouldn't have put it out there early without for sure hitting that mark. And sure, you might get 1080-60, but make sure it works first. Make sure it looks great first before promising people they're going to see it that way.
It's a valid discussion.
So, what that's worth. Is Ben Askren? Let's talk about that quick. I apologize. I know we kind of ended the regular show with it. Good night, Ace Run Productions. Again, thank you so much for all the support, not just tonight, but every night. We really do appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, definitely. Go check out Ace Run Productions' webpage. I think they're doing some disc reviews, kind of like Disc Golf Nerd. But yeah, go check them out. They're doing a good job as well. So make sure you see them.
So Ben Askren,
from Milwaukee here,
is originally from the Heartland Arrowhead area, which is about 10 to 15 minutes west of where I live, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. So yeah, the Milwaukee metro area. Went to Beijing in the Olympics back around like 2000, 2004, somewhere around then. And has then been in he's undefeated. Was it Bellator? Is that the other brand of MMA fighting, I guess? One of them. He was there. He was then, in a very unprecedented move, traded into the UFC for another competitor or another wrestler.
After years of smack talk and shit talk.
Yes, and having these online funny debates with the likes of Dana White and others, I believe. He's kind of he's become notorious and is very famous for just talking trash, mainly via Twitter. And whether you love him or hate him, I think it's very entertaining. So he's of course also then a disc golfer. He's been sponsored by Discraft. I think he finished second at the US ADGC a number of years ago. He's played in a tournament that I've run, and he doesn't play a lot of tournaments now per se, as he's been focused obviously on his professional career. He owns, I think, 9 baskets that are on his own property, private property, that he said he wants to have kids when he's doing wrestling. He coaches a lot of wrestling, and so whether it's a camp or something, he provides another outlet, and so that's part of putting some baskets on his own property. Him and Paul Macbeth have exchanged a few messages even prior to Paul being a Discraft player. And a few months ago, I ran into him at the airport, actually, and we sat and talked a little bit more about golf. And it was funny because I said something about whatever tournament I was going to at the time, and it's clear he doesn't follow the ins and outs of daily disc golf, as we were talking about some of the new up-and-coming players or some of the players that are out there, and that just kind of struck me as funny. But he clearly knows what's going on. Well, he won in his UFC debut, which was controversial, but he won. He was given the decision.
Very little controversy over it.
I don't know if there was little.
Little. Basically, he Askren got down on the ground, got hit a couple times, was able to get on top of the guy, choke him out. The dude's arm fell. At that point, you're out. You have probably passed out. The ref walked over, saw that, called it, but by the time the ref called it, they think that whoever he had in the chokehold, Lawler, I think his name is Lawler, had woken up. But pretty much everyone, and I've read a few things about this, pretty much everyone said it was the right call. The dude was out. Very few people should be complaining about the fact that that guy's arm fell, like he was passed out. Now, I'm sure there are, as the internet is everywhere, there's some sort of someone that's going to disagree with you.
Dana White was the number one disagreeer.
Yeah,
so
well, great.
At any rate, whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is, he ended up winning the decision, and in a post-match interview, he was talking with some other gentlemen, and he had said that he had gotten in around 18 holes even before the match. And so, of course, that's pretty cool. And then he said to the guy something about, do you know what disc golf is? And the guy's like, no, I really don't. And then they talked about, is there disc golf in Europe? And he was going to be traveling over there and so on and so forth. So the fact that he's in this post-event interview on a reputable or a large-scale, media whatever after the fact, and then he's still finding a way to and I don't think it's a main objective of his, but he's getting disc golf referenced within there is pretty damn cool.
I think he knows what he's doing.
I love it. I
So
think
do
it's
I.
pretty damn cool.
It's awesome.
So
No questions about it.
very funny to see, and he was talking about playing, and like I said, that he got the 18 holes in, and so I don't know if there's really a lot to follow up on that, but it's awesome to know that he's 10, 15 minutes west of my house, and clearly disc golf is still very important to him, although it may not be till now, like the Masters time frame before he cares about tournaments again or something. He's got bigger things to worry about, but still
Like
pretty
not
cool to
getting
see.
punched in the face.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, if you want, like, I'll say next level trash talking, follow him on Twitter.
Oh, he's great.
He goes after everyone, and it's I think part of like a shtick a little bit. He's not afraid to call anyone out, and he's definitely not worried about making friends or what enemies he makes. But just entertaining. I don't follow much UFC. Johnny doesn't follow much UFC at all.
Very little.
I really only care like twice a year, so I'm not claiming to be a UFC or an MMA fighting fan. But when he's involved, it piques my interest that much more. Yeah, in a random kind of roundabout side note to all of that, the reason I know about him or knew about him was because when he was going to the Olympics, there was a fundraiser. And it was mentioned that he played disc golf, and at that time, I donated some discs to be used for the fundraiser, which was raising funds for him ultimately go to Beijing. So that was kind of like the initial like conversation and how things got started all those years ago.
Yeah, and I heard about him on the news. Just the fact that he was a local wrestler going to the Olympics at the time when I first heard about him, I had no clue he played disc golf until.
Yeah.
So I think he did okay at the Memorial one year in advanced.
Yeah, because I think he was on the actual coverage through Disc Golf Planet.
Yeah,
he may have finished. I think he took second at the Memorial in advanced a number of years ago. So he may have won it or second. I don't know.
I think it was second.
Somebody go check some records. UDisc.
Where were you?
Retro UDisc from Advanced Division 8 years ago. Get on it or something.
At least, yeah.
All right, so a lot more conversation about quality in terms of the resolution. Again, we'll see how that picks up and how that maintains throughout the rest of the year. And as these newer and different units get used throughout the Pro Tour, I'm also interested to see just that. Our cell signal is going to be challenged as much. Will there be less of an issue? Johnny, you seem to think that they would be less of an issue at some places throughout the year?
Yeah. These are, so we have what most would consider like a prosumer type of transmitter in the Teradex. They're good quality, but they are, I mean, I think one costs anywhere between, you can buy them from anywhere from $1,500 to $8,000, depending on what you want. The equipment that Steve is using, these live views, we're talking in the tens of thousands dollars. So the antennas are better. So I think you might see a little bit better quality cell signal than what we've seen. And honestly, I limited the bandwidth that I was pushing out at, because here in the studio, as I've lamented for years, I can't get fiber. I literally looked at AT&T just the other day, just hoping I could get some fiber connection in here, some gigabit. I can't. I've got the second highest connection they offer. I'm actually looking at getting the highest connection they offer. So I did not push out the feed at as high of a level as I could have, which for the live stream might have made it look a little bit better. Not much, but just a little bit better. It would have done nothing for the post-production. Let me make that clear. It would have done nothing for the post-production.
Jomez would have fixed it.
Jomez would have fixed it. So for Waco, maybe somebody that has an even better internet connection than myself could push out at an even higher rate than what I was. And that could make the actual footage quality, I would say, look as good as you're seeing in the post-production, which you can never say any other time for most other events. So look at what the post-production is putting out, and I think that is, at least for this event, that is the top quality you are going to get for the live production. That's my understanding. That would be my thought. Unless on the actual units you turn up the cell provider. They had basically a limiter on them, and so they only pushed out so much data, because these things you only get so much data with them. That's one of the reasons why we went out and bought these prosumer ones, because then we have all of our own cell cards. I think, and I've never talked to Dodge about this, I think they have a deal with LiveView of some sort where they have X amount of data. So you don't want to like burn through all of your data by putting out this awesome high quality, and then you're out of data in a day or two. So I think that there's a little limiter on it. Now, here's some advice. If I were Steve, I would talk to the LiveView company and beg and plead to increase the quality, because that will increase the quality for everything, for the live and the post-production on these LiveViews. And it might cost a lot of money. I don't know, because I've never worked with them other than a little bit of tech support to help us get up and running. So I have no clue on the costs. But to me, that's what would make the most sense at this point. If everybody's clamoring for better quality, that would do it. You could increase the quality there a little bit. Again, you're still not getting what we've become accustomed to seeing in the post-production. That just cannot happen with the current technology, period. It can look good. It's not going to look phenomenal.
I just want 4K.
Me too, man.
Okay. I don't.
$4,000. Give me 4K.
Hodl Hands it says, looking forward to watching Terry's round 4 coverage. A little late to announce for sure, too. All my footage from the Las Vegas challenge has been posted. I was out there doing post-production chase card FPO footage. Thank you to the Throw Ping. Thank you to the PDGA. I was also notified that the back 9 of round 4, which released earlier, had an audio sync issue, which I still have no idea how it happened, because it was recorded in real time, so to speak, with Eagle. So I may pull down the back 9. By the time you're listening to this, it'll be actually, if you're not listening live, you won't even notice it. So I'll probably pull down, re-render, knock on wood, my computer works, and put it back up during for the back 9 if there really was an audio sync issue, and I'll try and get that fixed ASAP tonight yet even. So, but yeah, please check it all out. Some more action coming at you. And I think next week there may even be a little bit of a media blitz on my side. I've got all the footage that I talked about to get released, and looking forward to getting a ton of good content out there with some of the new graphics that I have, and some of the the most recent events being Thailand and Maricopa Meadows. So a couple great events that are all edited and ready to go.
It just hit me. Did you go to was there anything cool that Discraft was releasing for the Memorial?
Somehow some people got their hands on Kongs.
I heard,
but
somewhat.
It was an incredibly limited amount. And when I was asking about it, I was informed they were out. So there was no massive release or anything to them that I knew of.
I think someone said the 20th or something along those lines. 22nd maybe.
Yeah, that
is when they're big time publicly released.
That I'm unsure of. Someone, Makers, had asked, I wonder what the PDJ member kickback is to the U-Disc for including it. Yeah, good question. I mean, obviously, as we all know, the pro membership, if you're buying it outright, is $5 a year.
Yep.
I'm doubting if they're going to give them 10 or 15 or 20,000 guaranteed or 30,000 guaranteed members. They're paying a full $5. I have no idea. I don't want to say it's none of our business, but I don't know what the details are, and if someone wants to make them, if they want to make it public, maybe they will, but something tells me they may not.
I heard they're getting $7 a member.
Oh my gosh, what a deal. Daryl says, it's funny how we rely on YouTube when we basically use it for free minus the ads, and I'm curious if Disc Golf Pro Tour has to pay anything for their use of YouTube. Well, the answer is no. They're not paying anything to YouTube. Nor have we, and hopefully that remains forever. You could go out and literally start a stream. At one point, the limit was 24 hours. I've never tried it, nor do I plan to. But you could host a 4K stream for 24 hours, and have 1 million viewers on it, and YouTube does not assess any charges, which is very, very, very different from how live broadcasting once went when Disc Golf Planet
there's
and some
depending
places
on what you're doing,
charge you for the airtime and the viewers that you have. So it's been an interesting shift throughout all these years. And YouTube was the game changer when Disc Golf Planet was broadcasting videos. If they hit X amount of people watching for Y amount of time, they got charged either a regular charge or surcharges, and it would cost hundreds or thousands of dollars potentially to broadcast disc golf. And YouTube came along right around 2013, 2014 and said, guess what? You can now stream to our platform if you meet these requirements, which thankfully my channel did. You can stream to this platform, and it's free to do. And I'll tell you right now, that was largely a starter for SmashBoxx to get interested in doing live broadcasting.
Yeah, because otherwise we would have been doing other like platforms or something like a Justin TV or something along those lines.
So anyway, I hope that long-winded, but that's the answer for you.
If if you want a really good but slightly boring video to go watch, there's a video out where a gentleman really digs into the destroyer mold.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
I've seen the headline.
It's about 20 minutes long.
Okay.
I was watching it last night. I was laying in bed because I think I saw Dixon post to it. And I'm laying in bed, and my wife is reading, and I'm watching this, and she turns to me. And I bet you I'm probably 12 or 13 minutes in, and she's like, "That's the most boring thing I've ever heard."
It doesn't sound appealing to me even.
It's actually kind of interesting about how, like, if you look on the bottom of destroyers, the original ones had he goes into all of this about basically the flight, why some of them are like ridiculously overstable, why some of them aren't. He says it doesn't really have to do with runs. It doesn't look like, because the same run, and he's looking at the lip, how the oldest ones have an actual like patent number, and if you look at the newer ones, right where that patent number is, there's actually scuff marks, because he's like, it looks like they just took the mold and molded over it, and he's like, you can tell by how many different versions that there's 2 different destroyer molds. He's like, this scuff mark, which is in every disc, is different than this scuff mark, which is in every disc. He's like, but I've only been able to find 2. Someone says there might be a 3rd. I literally got through 2/3 of the video, and then my wife is like, go to bed. And so I went to bed. I haven't watched the end of it yet, but I found it surprisingly interesting about talking about the consistency of them and why some of them might be more stable versus less stable. If you're into a little nerdery about discs, go ahead and watch it. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, the 2-swipe, 3-swipe. He had like used a rivet for measuring the slope of the lip and how big of a difference there is in the actual lips of a destroyer. Like significantly different.
Okay. Popular disc, obviously. That I'm glad I got a whole bunch of first runs sitting around.
Yeah.
Someday. Is the part in my hair bigger than normal? I don't think so. I mean, it's just my hair. Will I be at Throwdown the Mountain? Dad's Drunk / Darren LeMay asks. Yes, I think I will be. That is in a couple of weeks, and
you are going.
There is a 3-week swing of Florida events, and there's conversation about media and coverage at all of them, and some of them. I've been a great value proposition, I feel like, to Mike Barnett over at Sun King, and I believe Jomez will be now covering it this year. And so I'm hoping to still get some action from there. Why put out post-production at all if the quality isn't 1080 or whatever? That's the only pro it has over live. Well, and it's condensed.
The time, the time condition. Here, I think I've said this before. Eagle was talking about Eagle's Dream World. Johnny's Dream World. Post-production doesn't come out for like 3 days.
Oh, you're going to piss off everybody.
I don't care. Like, and it's not because I'm in the live avenue and everybody else is in the post-production avenue. I see it as a money thing for whoever's doing live. If live is your thing, if as a tournament, if you want to do live, if you have no interest in live as a tournament, then it makes no sense. But if you are going to invest in live,
you're going to get your most bang for your buck.
You're going to get your most bang for your buck with your sponsors if you don't let that post-production come out for a few days or a week or whatever, because then people are going to, even if they skip through the video with, you know, the L or K or whatever key it is that makes the video go faster, no different than a DVR on your TV. I just think, to me, that makes the most sense. Wait to put the post-production out. If your tournament does not have live, then by all means get that post-production out ASAP. That's just, to me, that makes the most sense. And I understand that's not for everybody, because people really, really, you know, some people don't want to watch live, and I understand that. And some people really want to wait for the post-production, and I get that. I just don't always fully comprehend the whole thing.
I've heard people comment that sync issues get tougher with longer duration videos. You know, there's you know, drift and all this other stuff. For what I was doing in terms of Eagle being on site and as we were recording straight into Premiere, there shouldn't have been any issues in terms of the sync. But yes, when you are talking about somebody being remote and doing commentary, or multiple people being both remote and doing commentary, and then trying to apply that onto a post-production video, there are a number of challenges that can come into play there. Blue Boy says, just got here. If you have a USDGC qualifier tournament, are the spots open to all players who play the same Pro Tees, or is it confined to only pros who play the same Pro Tees?
Is that on a per event basis? Is that determined by the TV?
I mean, typically they always say, yeah, that you have to play the same, the tees have to be the same. So a lot of times the FPO division, for instance, may play 1 or 2 or 10 different tees than what MPO, so that immediately disqualifies them. However, there might be a Pro Masters or a Pro Grandmasters that plays the same tees, and if they play the same tees and the same amount of holes and essentially play the exact same thing, then I would assume that they would be eligible to play as well. And I'd go ahead and say that even in the advanced division, for instance, it would be amazing to see an advanced level player, but I guess it's possible. Have one of the top 5. Yeah, it's definitely possible to have one of the top 5 scorers of people who haven't previously qualified, or 10 or whatever they're doing. So I guess it could be done. You'd have to check with the individual tournament. Daryl says the Kongs were given at a putting clinic. Yeah, they were at a putting clinic, and there were also a few others, is what I was told by Keith Murray at Spinners. And yeah, it was interesting watching people lose their minds over all of those and continue to. And that's all supply and demand for now. Timothy says, I just pulled up another tab with round 4 post-production. It looks just like the standard definition level results. I'm on a Retina display, which may be part of the issue. Okay, I wish all the new Disc Golf Pro Tour haters would start buying a bunch of merchandise and burn it. Okay.
Well, that would make them happy and the Pro Tour happy.
I guess, yeah.
I'm with you.
All right. Something about releasing financials.
Oh, Christy was saying how when I made the flat out joke that UDisc is making $7 when their Pro originally costed $5. Christy is saying that you could.
Oh, the PDGA.
You could look at the PDGA financials.
Yeah.
Possibly. Sometimes some of that stuff gets bundled in with other things. So that could be all part of like a technology budget that is not detailed. I don't know. I haven't looked at one of the budgets in a while. So whether or not you could truly break that out to see what they're paying UDisc specifically, I don't know. So,
Darren, I have no idea what you're talking about, Ajax. As in, like the cleaning, or as in an airport, or something in Jacksonville? I also did not open any news tab at any point today. I opened the YouTube tab and I opened the Facebook tab for 2 minutes. So whatever you're talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. The secret to finding the right destroyers in the title. Okay, no, I'm going to skip down to try and catch up a little bit. Oh, the Jacksonville Open.
Jacksonville Open.
Okay. Was hoping for a show of solidarity among the real disc golf media providers. Disc Golf Pro Tour's model just ruined one tournament for the archives.
Not necessarily, because, and I don't know for a fact, that I would hope that regardless of what's going on with the live views, that they are recording that locally on their cameras. They would be insane if they're not. So, but I have no clue. I didn't really have much to do with the post-production. So, in theory, you could still pull that footage from the cameras and piece something together, and improve the look of the broadcast, the quality of the picture. You're not getting any different angles, clearly, because it's still there. But, I mean, take that for what you will. I don't know. Nate and Val were pretty awesome. They saved it. They are a lot of fun, and they're super knowledgeable, and they're good. And I know not everybody loved them, but that's, I mean, we've said that before. That's your taste and your commentating and this and that, and they do need to slow down a little bit at times, but ultimately, I thought they did a really, really good job.
Zeppy, it seems like you had struggles, maybe more than some, for sure. As you it says footage was bad. JV looks like 480 at best.
I know. I understand what it looks like, and we've discussed this. It's all about what 1080 looks like technically versus what it is. I understand.
All right. Well, I didn't see it, so. I did see a little bit of the first day, I should say.
The skizzle.
As some of you know, I went live while your feed was down, and tried to provide any or little bit of insight that I could from my host.
Mm-hmm.
I would be curious to know if additional feeds between rounds, or at the beginning or end of rounds, or when I was out there or not at the end of the day. Like, if those are the types of things that if I were to commit to finding myself at more events or looking for sponsorship for events, are those the types of things that people would like to see me do more of? Would you like me filming other things? Those are just kind of a general idea. I'd love to know what you guys think of that. I know Jamie Thomas was out there doing stuff. I know, the PDGA went live during the Vegas stuff. I really, not being part of the Pro Tour media will open up a number of avenues or ideas or concepts that I can further explore. So that's why I would love to hear from more of you as to what you would like to see or hear if I'm going to continue to, be independent and doing some of my own thing at some of these events. So of which I won't be at some, others I will be. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right, let's do a giveaway. Everybody loves a giveaway.
I don't know what we're going to give away this week. Not one of my boxes of cookies that's right there from your daughter.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
No, those are yummy. I do not want to give those away.
I think I might eat some right now.
I'm kind of snacky. Next week, though, if you're interested in being a Patreon supporter, next week we have the Disc member box giveaway. So the $50 value, you can sign up and get for $25 and get that. So we're going to do that next week. But what are we going to do this week, Terry?
I don't know. I'll find something at the house to give away.
Something at the house. Could be a broom.
Yep.
Could be a chair.
Could be an old broken camera.
Ooh, nice.
Could be an old broken piece of Adobe. No, I don't think that really works.
No.
That's a cloud thing.
Yeah.
But I'll find something to give you, something you should be happy with. And if you're not, you'll find someone else to give it to, and they'll be happy with it.
That's right.
One way or another.
If you would like to be eligible for our patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, support us right there, and you will be entered into the drawing every week. Smashbox, Patreon, Patreon, all that stuff. Just every little bit helps, as I always say. 207 people.
And it will not be a first-run destroyer, any of the 24 or so that I have. And it will not be a USDGC rock. We are not made of that kind of money, folks. We are not. But it'll be something that you'll enjoy.
Well, of course. So we have 207.
Oh, and Darren earlier was talking about Champions League. Ajax, Champions League, something or other. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Not a clue.
And I don't feel bad about that.
No, maybe, yeah. Anyway, so what number should we pick, Terry Miller?
Wow.
2, because there's 2 boxes of cookies over there.
All right, but there's 20 cookies in each, so I think 40 is the number. I want you to count 40 of them.
The first number is 167. The second number is 161.
Oh my gosh.
161.
How are they sorted? By
just by
first
name
today?
Richard Sandoval.
Yeah, Richard.
Richard Sandoval. Get you some of that.
Richard Sandoval.
Richard Sandoval.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's a name.
That's a new name, too.
That's a name we haven't given anything away to that I can recall. So, of course, every time I say that, someone's like, no, it was like 2 weeks ago.
No, that name I definitely don't
But
recognize.
no, congratulations, Richard. We will reach out to you via email, and you will make sure to get that. A couple quick notes for those of you that didn't get the email, even though I would hope all of you did. SkipAce.com has a couple new features. We now have email reminders that they will send you to make your picks. It's an opt-in option, so you need to go to your profile page and click the little email thing. So I'm not going to send you an email if you don't want one. What was the other thing I sent out in that mail? Oh, you can remove yourself from old leagues. There's a button now if you go into your profile area for new leagues, and there's a nickname area. So if you don't want, when you sign up via like your Facebook or your Google, it always takes that particular name that you have. We put in a nickname field that will be, right now it's just taking the nickname. I think in a couple days we'll actually start pushing it out so that people see it. So rather than whatever the name is you have on there, you'll actually have a nickname that you can choose. And then that's this week. Next week, the goal is for, hallelujah, multiple league picks. So when you make picks, you can cascade them into other leagues. That's the goal. So ultimately, that's skipace.com. Go sign up and play some fantasy disc golf. Every week, Infinite Discs is giving away $30 worth of gift certificates.
Holy cow. Did you say 30?
I said 30. First place, 15.
$30?
Second place, 10. Third place, 5. I sent out the first ones today, and the guys two of them didn't even, I don't think, even realize that Infinite was giving. They're just like, holy crap, I got some gift certificate.
Booyah.
And I was like, hey, go spend it on something pretty.
All right. Well, check it out. You said skipace.com.
Skipace, SKIPACE.
Yep, .com.
Yep.
Check it out there. Some fantasy disc golf action.
Really what is it's Skippa CE.
Skippa.
So if you like CE plastic and you like to skip them, you Skippa CE.
That makes perfect sense. I like that.
Why wouldn't it?
I feel like Innova should sponsor you with CE plastic, original champion edition plastic.
That'd be a great idea, Innova. I only have a few pieces of original CE hiding somewhere. I could use some more, Innova. Show me some money.
And if you like giveaways, I'm not above buying your love and affection and your clicks and your votes and your subscriptions. I've got giveaways, I think, happening on all of the last 2 or 3 videos of the Las Vegas Challenge FPO stuff. So please give it a like and a thumbs up. All that stuff helps for visibility, and it gives you a chance to win some stuff. So whatever I say in the video, I ramble on about something and ask for you to participate. And then in a week or so, I'm going to go ahead, as usual, and grab one of those names and then send out some free stuff. So please make sure you do that on the FPO action. All right, on the board, Hodel says, great show tonight, worth the 4 hours. Appreciate it.
I don't know how many other people are saying that other than
long
him, but thank
night,
you.
but it was good.
It was good.
Terry, I was asked that I do some more interviews. Thank you very much. I jokingly said, but I don't want to cramp or copy Corey Merle's style, Johnny Disc Golf. I know he's out there giving a ton of interviews today or these days, which is great.
I'm going to give him props for his interview with Steve Dodge. I thought it was really well done.
Okay, good. Go out and watch that. So, yes, I will be doing more interviews for sure of sorts. In fact, I've got a few that I want to release that were part of the Vegas Challenge that I'm just used to doing them, that I'm, maybe pulling them out and making them still a separate standalone video along with being in the video. Gives you guys options to watch them when you want. So those are some good things to do. And Matthew Q says, Terry was the original pre-round interview. I've done quite a few. God, it will never happen, but it'd be interesting to think about, like, even outside of this show, I wonder how many interviews I've given to players over the years. It's definitely in the hundreds.
Oh yeah.
which is kind of interesting. Smashbox preserving the spirit of disc golf. Such a breath of fresh air. Love these guys. Well, EV Cheese, we appreciate it. Zeppy, good night. Appreciate it. The Smashbox basement studio was a bit more cluttered than expected on Simon's vlog.
It is. It's even, I would say it's even just a tad worse right now than what it has been in the past, because things have been moving around, and I had a brand new server here from the Pro Tour that I need to ship out to whomever needs it for Waco.
Corey's timing has been key. Yeah, he's been, one of the strategies is film a few shots, conduct an interview, and then there's not a lot that has to go on top of that interview. If it's going to be a stand-up interview with essentially a camera and a microphone, and then that's the meat and the potatoes of the video. I'm not going to downplay the content, because obviously it's great, but that is a really quick, easy turnaround, in the sense that you probably can bring in the file, trim it, adjust some audios, throw an intro on. Clearly much more practical for a quick turnaround than actual round footage or highlights or anything of that nature. And yes, Brian Sullivan, rest in peace, certainly a tremendous interviewer and a very early, one of the few true disc golf journalist reporter types that I came across. Of course, there are a few before him, but he really owned that, along with his background and his insight and his knowledge and his love for the game. And, certainly missed, and certainly an inspiration. I stayed at his house many, many years ago, and just a guy of many, many talents, including, of course, starting up DiscLife.com. Is the broken whippet for sale, Seth asks? That would be kind of a fun giveaway to do after everyone kind of famously saw it destroyed during the Simon vlog. AK interviews like today with Eagle. Yeah, certainly love talking to him tonight. All right, guys, we're going to call it. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for following along on SmashBoxxTV. Thanks for being here for the podcast, the after show, the unsanctioned that Johnny's been killing it on, participating, engaging, involving, all that stuff, playing a little extra fantasy action on Skip Ace, just all of those fun ways that you guys can interact. Thank you for your Patreon support. Hopefully you enjoy the extra giveaways that we have from time to time, and we look forward to getting back at it and having a great year now that we're finally getting into the thick of it.
Yeah.
All right.
I got 100% with you.
For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, we love all you guys. We love our Patreon supporters even more, and our super chatters. You're becoming our favorites. You're going to fight it out with those Patreon subscribers. We love you all. We'll see you next week for episode 238. We step inside the Smashbox.